All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the August 8th meeting of the Charles County Board of Education. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome back. Hope everyone had a enjoyable and relaxing summer. And we will start with the superintendent's update to the board.
Good afternoon, Board Chairperson Lucas, board members, staff, and those viewing today's meeting online. I want to highlight several Charles County Public Schools updates, but first, let me say welcome to the first board meeting of the 2023-2024 school year. I know our student member of the board is eager to come back to school. On Monday, August 28th, Charles County Public Schools will welcome back close to 28,000, I actually think we'll be above that, students from summer break. New teacher orientation kicks off next week, and our teacher force of nearly 2,000 dedicated teachers report back from summer break on August 21st. I can't wait to see all of our schools filled with students and staff. Before I share important updates for the new school year, I want to highlight a few from this summer. First, I want to congratulate our high school graduates who completed their high school diploma requirements through summer school. Last Friday, we honored more than 80 graduates in a special ceremony to recognize their commitment to finishing high school. I'm very proud of these students. Our Summer Boost programs were full of students who were excited to receive additional instructional support over the break. Our free enrichment camps were full almost as soon as we opened registration, and those camps continue this week. Additionally, we successfully provided bus transportation for all summer programs for the second year in a row. I appreciate the work of our staff, administrators, bus drivers, attendants, and contractors who made transportation widely available to our families this summer. I also want to thank our food and nutrition services staff. This Thursday is the final day for the summer meals program, and our dedicated food and nutrition services staff has operated 9 serving sites and provided thousands of free meals for children. Thank you to everyone who helped children access food over the summer. Now on to the presentations and updates for the new school year. The first day of school for students in kindergarten through grade 12 is Monday, August 28th. Students attending our pre-K program start classes on Tuesday, September 5th. To our families waiting to hear about pre-K program acceptance, please know that students who qualify under Tier 1 are placed first, followed by students in Tier 2 and Tier 3. Any pre-kindergarten program updates will be shared with parents in their Parent View accounts. New this year is our use of Where is the Bus? An app that uses GPS technology already installed in our buses and provides real-time data as to when buses will arrive at bus stops. Parents can download the Where is the Bus mobile app and create a free account to monitor their child's bus travel in real time. Bus assignments and route information for the new school year will be loaded into this application on or around August 21st. This month, we're opening 2 additional facilities to support more students. Phoenix International School of the Arts, also known as PSOTA, opens this year as our 9th middle school and first Charles County charter school. PSOTA opens with 175 students in grades 6 through 8 and features an arts-based curriculum. We're also expanding pre-kindergarten with the opening of the new Early Learning Center located on the College of Southern Maryland, La Plata campus. And this center includes space for 85 additional pre-K students. This spring, the Charles County Public Schools Code of Student Conduct Committee provided recommendations for the Code of Student Conduct. The code for this year include important revisions, including a new dress code for students. The dress code language is posted on our website under the Students menu, and is outlined in both the Code of Student Conduct as well as the new Parent Handbook/calendar. The new Parent Handbook and calendar is also posted on our website, and students will receive a copy during the first week of school. The dress code emphasizes the important role of parents in ensuring that the dress and grooming of their child is appropriate for school. I urge parents to take some time and review the updated dress code and learn about the changes. In the new school year, we're also enhancing our supports for student well-being by offering telemental health to middle and high school students. More information will follow as we continue to expand the options to assist the personal success and needs of our students. This year, Charles County Public Schools is participating in a federal meals program offered through the U.S. Department of Agriculture that provides free breakfast and lunch for students at qualifying schools. The Community Eligibility Provision, also known as CEP, provides the meal funding to support schools that are in areas where families meet a certain maximum income level. CCPS will have 12 schools participating in the CEP program this year, and a list with more information about the program is also on our website. And just for some additional final reminders for our families, please make sure your child is up to date on vaccines required for schools. The Charles County Department of Health has several upcoming free vaccine clinics for our families, and a list of clinics is posted under the quick links menu of our website. Please don't forget to fill out the meals benefit application for your children. It is also posted on our website. And all updates and news for the coming school year are also on our website. Please continue to visit the website and the social media accounts for the most up-to-date information and back-to-school updates. Thank you. I'm excited to welcome families and students back to our schools.
Thank you very much, Dr. Navarro. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Heil.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Lucas, board members, Superintendent Navarro, CCPS leadership, educators, and community members. As we assemble today, the final preparations are being made to kick off the fiscal year 23-24 school year for Charles County Public Schools. Collectively, we did some great work last year to begin a transformation in our system that will better serve our students and create a working environment where educators feel valued, grow, and make a career in Charles County Public Schools. As a community of education professionals, the best way for us to attain our full potential is to be reflective, make course corrections, informed by the needs of our students, and center our work around the voice of educators by listening to their experiences and what they need to do their best each day. Targeted leadership training for schools will be in its second year with a renewed focus on instruction and standards, helping all our schools to scale up our ability to collaborate on quality instruction for all students. EACC has appreciated being involved in this initiative to be able to support that work that is being done system-wide. The Office of Teaching and Learning is in its second year of building a more robust mentoring and instruction program and will be launching its new Teacher Academy, something that EACC has been advocating for, to provide timely, specific support to our newest educators, including those that are working hard to do the job while completing certification requirements. The Department of Teaching and Learning, in collaboration with the EACC, has also redesigned the new educator orientation days to provide a system-wide focus on creating a strong foundation of tools and supports for all our new educators to equip them for a successful year. We have also brought back our teacher store that will be available to all new educators next week at North Point. In addition, EACC has established monthly labor management meetings with the Office of School Leadership with the Department of Teaching and Learning last year, and we look forward to continuing those conversations so we can have a proactive forum to provide the support to our educators. These initiatives are designed to sharpen our focus on teaching and learning, our singular mission. Zeroing in on our collective focus and supporting educators from early career through seasoned veterans needs to be a priority if we're going to increase our ability to attract and retain a quality workforce. The best way to do that is to visit schools, talk to educators and administrators who are working on behalf of our students every day, and to continue the collaborative relationship with EACC. Supporting educators and students also means providing safe, welcoming, working, and learning environments for all. CCPS, EACC, and stakeholders completed some work on changes to the Code of Conduct. This year, we need to focus on consistency of implementation of this work across school sites to ensure we're giving every child and educator the environment most conducive to student learning where everyone can thrive and achieve their full potential. New collaborative work will begin this year with the Career Ladder Development Council that will be working on recommendations for a career ladder for CCPS, potential changes to evaluations, and strategies for retention that are in line with the blueprint for Maryland's future. Additionally, we'll be engaging in work to examine our extra pay for extra duty process and structures to make sure that we're not only providing compensation for additional activities, but have created a streamlined process that creates a paradigm to consider new offerings and aligns the positions with compensation that reflects the size and scope of the activity. Our education professionals are devoted to supporting our students and always take a whole child approach. As we were winding down the school year, an EACC building rep shared an idea for collecting the clothes that are left behind in our school each year and ensuring that those unclaimed garments were redistributed to our school community. Clothes were collected, sorted, and school leaders have been contacted to collaborate on a distribution method to make sure those clothes can be put to good use by our students. Educators are problem solvers, creative, and solutions focused. EACC encourages the Board of Education to keep an open dialogue with EACC and our community of educators and leaders so that we can build on the good work we've done as a school system and further our journey of continuous improvement while keeping our ears tuned into the voices of educators who are doing great work on behalf of students every day. EACC looks forward to being an engaged partner with the BOE and school system leaders to make Charles County the best place to work and learn. Lastly, and I can't believe Dr. Navarro didn't mention this, be sure to grab your tickets to the EACC Ask Me CCPS Back to School Baseball Bash. Tickets are still available for the August 26th event that includes a Blue Crabs game, a chance to have dinner at the picnic pavilion, and enjoy a fun night of baseball, fireworks, and fun to kick off the new school year altogether. Visit the EACC website to get your tickets today. Through improved salaries, continued work on a system-wide approach to being reflective practitioners and providing multi-layers of support, we can realize our full potential as a school system. All of our work must be grounded in working with and listening to the voice of educators.
Can I just say on my defense that we're actually, next week is new teacher orientation, and we have a whole social media thing. I know we have a lot of watchers to the board meetings, but we're also going to add the social media component, so just know. And we'll be there.
Awesome. We look forward to seeing everybody there.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next, we're going to hear from AFSCME, and Miss Birch is not here today, but Miss Stephanie Lawson. Good afternoon. How are you? Good.
How are you?
Awesome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephanie Lawson, Vice President of AFSCME Local 2981. Sarah Birch is on vacation and will be back at the September 12th board meeting, ready to improve all support staff's working environment. AFSCME's goals for FY24 are to increase membership and wages and work on the contract and to put smiles on the faces of our support staff. Our holiday party was held on June 24th at the FOP Lodge in La Plata. Dinner was catered by Chaptico Market, and some of the side dishes were provided by our union members. And the DJ's music selection was awesome that night. Patrick Moran, president of Council 3, gave a nice short speech and donated a 50-inch TV to raffle off, along with other door prizes donated by AFSCME Local 2981. On July 8th, Sarah Birch, Genevia Burrows, Barry Wood, and Rosalind Manley attended the AFSCME Maryland Special Convention held at Maryland Live. On July 15th, Sarah Birch attended a meeting in Baltimore for the presidents of K-12 locals in council. 5 counties were represented at the meeting: Baltimore, Howard, Hartford, Prince George's, and Charles. On August 23rd, Council 3 will attend CCPS's Food and Nutrition's all-employee meeting at Lackey High School. A steward training will be held on September 20th and 21st. Any interested members can call or email myself, Tracy Newbold, or Sarah Birch for more details. Any AFSCME Local 2981 member who completes the 2-day course will receive a $50 check. And as Mr. Howell said, please do not forget to attend the baseball bash at the Blue Crab Stadium on Saturday, August 26th. AFSCME will have drawings of for prizes and give out information about Local 2981. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Great job. Thanks, Ms. Lawson. Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Mr. Lowndes and Dr. Jones.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Lowndes and I will chat with you a little bit this afternoon on the state of the school system, and this will be, as the title mentions, the abbreviated version. Some of you did have an opportunity to hear the
Take
full-
offense to that title.
No. No, yeah, right. No, there was a lot of great information that Dr. Navarro did share yesterday with the leaders at our annual Leadership Institute, and we don't have the time today to go through that presentation in its entirety, and so we're going to give you some of the highlights today, Mr. Lowndes and I. All right, so Mr. Lowndes, I'll let you kick it off, and as soon as I click. Okay, hold on, maybe I had to turn it on. Hold on. I always forget that part. Let's try this. Okay, there you go.
Here we go.
All right.
Let me see a second.
Yes, sir.
So good afternoon. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. And as Dr. Jones said, it will be an abbreviated presentation. I was reminded that from my peers and my co-chiefs. So one of the things that the presentation really does focus on is where we are currently and looking at our strategic plan and looking at the 3 priorities. Once again, our priorities for everyone is student learning and achievement, access and opportunity, and culture and climate. We're going to talk about where we are and where we're going with a focus on the next couple of years of staying the course on the strategic plan and improving our student achievement throughout the county and their opportunities. So goal 1 and goal 2 under student achievement is really focused in under our teaching and learning and looking at our staff and improving our teaching and learning that's taken place in the classrooms. I just want to remind folks over the last couple of years, we've had many teachers that are being hired that are provisionally certified, and so we're putting a lot of resources, time, effort, and professional learning into improving the instruction that's taken place in the classroom. These folks are coming with an open mind and willingness to learn, and we've been very impressed with the improvement that's taking place with our summer learning. This summer we had over 73 opportunities for our teachers to take advantage of learning and how to teach the curriculum, both the strategies and the content, behavior management, strategies that would help them in the classroom to get their classroom in an orderly fashion and kids ready to learn. So I'm just very impressed with the amount of teaching and learning that took place, both from the staff that presented the professional learning, but also from the teachers that took advantage of it. And we really are focusing in on improving the classrooms that taken place, the teaching that's taken place every day in the classroom. We're also looking at buying and purchasing and using materials that meets the standards and helps our students reach a high level. And so we make sure that when we look at this, we're looking at the warehouse, we're looking at making sure that it's approved by the state, and we're using high quality instructional materials in every classroom. And we continue to do that, and I'll talk a little bit about what we are looking forward to adding this year within the classroom. We're looking at our interventions and our supports, and a lot of our trainings this summer also taught teachers on how to provide interventions during the school day, both in reading and in math. The first area that we're going to look at today is how well are our students doing in our reading across kindergarten up through grade 9, and where we're looking at the iReady scores and our state scores. So when you look at our MSA scores, what you'll see is that our students did improve in 2022 compared to 2021. We don't currently have our scores back and approved to share with the district from the state. We're hoping that the state will release them later in August, and then we'll be able to bring them sometime in the fall to show how well we did with our student achievement. But once again, we're bouncing back from COVID. It has taken some time. It's taken some intensive teaching and interventions and supports for our students to bounce back. And you'll see that our students in reading are bouncing back at a quicker rate than they are in math. We're going to look at how well we did in the fall. So from the fall to the spring, you'll see that our students did improve using the iReady as an indicator. And we're looking at the greens with the students are on grade level. And you'll see that we had more students that ended the year on grade level than started the year on grade level. We still have a lot of work to do, and we're still working on that. This is one that gives us a comparison. So not only do we want to compare how we're doing school to school, but we want to look at how well we're doing at a national level and at a state level. And so you'll see both nationally our students are improving, in state they're improving, and we're also improving in Charles County. This shows you the different levels and how well our students are doing at the different levels, and you'll see that at the elementary we've improved, at the middle we've improved, and also at the high school. So we continue to improve. We understand it's going to take some time. And one of the things that we've noticed when looking at this past year's iReady scores is that even with students that were improving and met their goals, they were so far behind that they didn't necessarily reach grade level. So we're making sure that we're continuing to look at how to accelerate our students and not only get them to meet their goals, but exceed their goals and hit their stretch growth. Because what we're noticing is really the stretch growth that we need to hit in order to help our students get caught up and be on grade level by the end of the year. So when we look at what we need to do and what we're still working on with our reading, you know, we're focused in on this summer, making sure that our teachers understand how to teach the foundational reading skills. So we ran a couple of sessions this summer, focused in on the early reading and in the intermediate levels, grades 3 through 5 as well, to make sure that everyone understands how to teach the foundational skills that students need in order to be successful within their reading. So we offered quite a few reading opportunities this summer. We've also looked at interventions, making sure that not only our teachers, but our instructional assistants were trained on using interventions for next year. So when we look at the reading block and we break it up and we do some whole group and then small group, we'll have teachers available to do some small groups and really targeted interventions during their classes. With math, and when you look at the math scores, and you know what we're finding out, and everyone knows and understands nationally as well in Charles County, is that math took a much bigger hit during COVID, and our students fell farther behind, and it's taken longer to get them caught up. And part of that is math, as we all understand, is taught linear, and so what you need what you learned the prior year to build on for the next year. And what we're finding out is that some of our students did not have the foundational skills from the previous year. So we're spending a lot of time focused in on not only giving them the foundational skills that they lost that year, but also keeping them on grade level to make sure that they're not falling farther and farther behind. So you'll see once again that we are improving in math when you compare it from the previous year, but it's not at the same rate that we would like to see, and it's not at the same rate as reading. But you'll see that we also improve from the beginning of the year when you look at the fall and then you look at the spring. And then when you look at the national, state, and you'll see that all three are improving and that we need to continue to improve to get our kids caught up and to be on grade level in order to be successful when they graduate. Here's our elementary. You'll see we improved in that area, we improved in the middle school area, and we also improved in the high school area. So some intentional work that we're doing with math. One of the things that we've done is we've moved every year, we've added a new grade level for the illustrious math material. And this past year we did Algebra 1, and this coming year we're doing geometry. And so this summer we spent training every single geometry teacher within the county that will be teaching geometry next year, as well as making sure that our elementary and our middle school teachers had the opportunity, if they didn't teach illustrious math last year or prior, to get the training that they need in order to be successful next year. So we continue to train new teachers every year in the curriculum, as well as moving the curriculum up to algebra geometry this school year. One of the things that, we're looking at as well is when we look at our pathways, and we'll talk a little bit about our pathways and where we're trying to get our students to go in the high school, we've noticed that we need to accelerate some of our students in the math at the elementary levels. And so one of the things that we're offering this year is an opportunity for our students that are on grade level in grades 1 and 2 to get a new program that's looking at increasing their abilities and their opportunities to accelerate them by the time they get to 3rd grade math. And that hopefully will get more students in a pathway to give them more opportunities to participate in some of our programs later in high school. But the other thing for parents that are listening out there, that's not the only on-ramp. Like, we're offering many on-ramps, and last year we provided students an opportunity to take geometry as well as take Algebra 1 during their middle school years so that they could go into high school ready to go with the algebra or geometry Algebra 2 by the time they were in 9th grade, which then provides more opportunities for students in high school. And we'll continue to do that again this year to provide many of our students opportunities if our parents so desire. So this year, when we look at our countywide focus on our learning. Last year, the focus was really getting our school teams to work together and to come up with a school improvement plan. And they were able to last year look at what instructional area they would like to focus in on and what strategies they would like to use. This year, we're going to look as a system as using writing. And we're going to learn together, all of us together, on what it means to write at the standard level in each grade level. So our teachers and our school teams will come together, we'll provide them professional learning and an opportunity for them to learn together, and then they'll be going back and looking at what it means to implement that within their schools. We chose writing because writing is an opportunity for you not only to digest what you've learned, but then you have to turn around and put it down on paper. And it's much more concrete, and it sticks with you longer if you have the ability to not only understand what you've learned, say what you learned, but also put it down on paper as what you've learned. So once again this year, we're going to be looking at investing together and putting a lot of resources into bringing our school teams together to learn. And then we're going to have our teachers go out there with one another and making sure that they're visiting classrooms, because there's no better way for a teacher to learn how to implement good curriculum in teaching and learning than to visit their peers and have an opportunity to discuss with one another what's going on in each one of their classrooms and how they plan together and implement what they've talked about and seen. So there will be a bit greater emphasis this year on getting teachers out into one another's classrooms to see what's going on and to see the teaching that's taking place in their schools. We've also made an investment and continue to invest in our coaching our teachers. We've looked at our math at our middle school levels, and we've invested this year in providing more coaching opportunities for our math teachers in our middle schools. And we'll continue to provide extra help, extra support, and our teaching and our learning for our instructional assistants. One of the things that special education did last year was they incorporated an academy for our instructional assistants within special ed, and they provided them opportunities to learn not only the curriculum, but also behavior management strategies to support our students within our schools. Whoops. Our second priority is access and opportunity, and when we're talking about access and opportunity, we're looking at our pre-K programs and expanding our pre-K programs, our all-day pre-K programs. And in the goal 2, it's looking at our elementary, middle, and high, and expanding opportunities for our students there as well. So if you look at our enrollment within, our pre-K program, you'll see that we have expanded our all-day pre-K opportunities, and this year we are opening up, as Dr. Navarro said earlier in her discussion about what's taking place this year, our Early Learning Center at the College of Southern Maryland. And there we'll have 85 new seats, but we'll also have opportunities for inclusion for our students that need special education services within the pre-K. There was a question from one of the board members about where we are with our pre-K, and so I would like to give you a quick update. As of right now, we've reviewed over 765 applications. We have a total of 1,100 seats, and that's both for our general education pre-K and our special education students that attend pre-K. Out of that, we have 419 students that currently qualify for our Tier 1 seats. So you'll see we have some available seats left. We are still taking applications. I just want to remind the board members that applications tend to come in later in August for some of our Tier 1 families. They wait till the end, and then we are obligated to make sure that we have a seat for every one of our Tier 1. So we will be looking at opportunities for our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 once September rolls around, and we feel like we have a good understanding of all of our Tier 1 seats that are available and are still needed going forward. Last year, we did have an opportunity to look at some Tier 2 seats in some of our schools, and we'll do the same again this year. I just want to remind the board members that next year we will be starting 3-year-olds. And so that is also an obligation that we must do, is provide seats for every 3-year-old by 2032, so that we make sure that everyone has a seat available. So that's one thing that we're looking forward. As we're adding our seats, we do understand that we're going to have to add many more seats to be able to accommodate all of our 3-year-olds going forward as well. Kindergarten readiness. This is one of the assessments that we look to see whether our students, when they're attending kindergarten, first get in, that they're ready for kindergarten. And as you see, our students have improved. 2019 is pre-COVID. You'll see that 47% of our students were there, and we're almost there. Last year, we were at 42%. But we had many more students attend our pre-K programs last year than we did prior, so we're excited to see what our kindergarten assessment is this year, and hoping for some improvement over last year. So we're talking about expanding programs and provide students opportunities. One of the programs that we're looking to add, and we've already begun talking about here at the board, is our dual language program, which is scheduled to open in August of 2024. I just wanted to make sure that folks understand that we're not waiting till 2024, that many of our teachers have already been to trainings, that we have a consultant that's coming in and that is working with the school. The school is Middleton, and that we're going to have an opportunity this year to visit some dual language programs that are already taking place in the state. The other area that we're looking at increasing is our middle school opportunity, high school classes within our middle schools. Last year we had 2 schools, Summers and Hanson, who piloted some programs for us where we decoupled their ELA, their English classes and their math classes, and we gave them an opportunity to offer 45-minute math classes and English classes, and then students that still needed additional help and support would take an intervention class that would offer that extra help and that extra support, both in reading and math. But if you didn't need that, then you had the opportunity to take a world language class or another type of class, such as music or art. And so what we found out was that, that did give us an opportunity, and we did increase the number of students that did take world languages last year and the number of students that took high school and middle schools. And so this year, all of our middle schools will be decoupling their math and their English classes, and they'll be looking at the students' scores and how well they did in the class last year and determining whether they need an intervention or whether they can go on and take a world language or another high school class. The other thing that we're doing with Summers and we're doing with Hanson is we're offering more CTE classes. Therefore, the students will have another opportunity to take a high school level course in the middle school, which will then open up more opportunities once they get in high school. Because the one thing that students do need, they need to meet some basic requirements once they're in high school in order to graduate. But if they can get some of those requirements out of the way in middle school, it opens up the opportunity to take other classes that will lead to either certifications or college or early college opportunities. So this is a slide that Dr. Navarro shared yesterday, and I want to make sure that everyone understands that, one of the reasons why we're looking at opening up more opportunities for our students when they graduate is because it's very important when they go on and get a job and have the opportunity and the ability to support not only themselves but their families. You'll see that a student that has a high school diploma compared to a student with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree doesn't have the opportunity to earn as much money. And we're talking about a student has the average salary with a high school diploma at $42,000, which I don't know if you can see that up there on that slide. But a student that has a bachelor's is around $68,000, and a student with an associate's degree is around $50,000. Now, we're talking about students also that have a CTE credential. And so many of our students that will leave that have a CTE credential actually are up there around in the associate's degree area, depending on what that degree is. So when we're talking about students having an opportunity, we're talking about students that have an opportunity in 3 different areas: advanced placement, dual enrollment in early college, or CTE. So what we're looking is having every single one of our students have the ability to leave in one of those 3 pathways. And one of the things that we've done in order to enhance that ability is we've added at the middle school level some career coaches, and at the high school level we've added and beefed up the supports that are also being provided for our students there as well. All of our students going into middle school and high school will make sure that they've chosen a pathway and that we've documented that pathway, and the understanding is if a student wants to change, of course we'll let them change, but at least we'll have an ability to be able to track whether they're going on the right direction to achieving either graduating with rigorous courses such as AP, or taking advantage of the dual enrollment early college, or leaving with a CTE pathway completer. So we're monitoring all 3 of these areas. And when you look at our completers, what you'll see is, compared to last year, we went down a little bit. And so in looking at where we've gone down, Dr. Navarro has really asked us to dig deeper into why is it that we've gone down, and in which one of those 3 areas do we really have to focus in on. Now, one of the things that I just want to let folks know is that some of these areas are competing as well. And so sometimes when you're in an early college program, you're not going to be able to take an AP class at your high school. And so maybe that impacts the numbers as well. Or if you were in a CTE completer program in your 9th grade, but then by the time you're 11th grade, you decided that you wanted to go into the early college program, you're not going to be able to complete that completer program. So that's why we're looking at making sure that folks are in a pathway and completing with one of these 3. Because that way it doesn't matter whether they compete or not. We know that they graduated being prepared to do something after high school. So when we look at early college enrollment from last year to projections for next year, you'll see that we had a big increase, and one of the reasons why is because we're adding our AA degree in business this year. And many of our students that are juniors have chosen to take that opportunity, as well as continuing to add our 31 credit program for our current seniors to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to take an early college. AP courses, when you look at our AP courses, you'll see that we did go up and we did improve from the courses taken from 2020 to 2023, and next year we're actually looking at another jump when we look at what the students signed up, where we'll go up to 2,376. One of the reasons why that's happening for next year in enrollment is because for the first time we are offering AP to our 9th grade students. The other thing is we've added 2 AP courses. We've added an advanced placement African American course that's being offered in 5 of our high schools, and we're also offering AP pre-calc for the first time. So we're giving more opportunities for students to take advanced placement courses. So this shows us the amount of the scores that students have taken with their advanced placements. And you'll see that we have improved in that area from 2022-23 to from 2021-22. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about this, and this is what Dr. Navarro highlighted yesterday in her discussion, was, you know, currently the practice has been that a student who takes an AP is a student that chooses to take the test at the end of the course. And that a student that received a 3 or higher, we paid for that. Charles County Public Schools paid for that course. So starting this year, for any student that takes the exam at the end of the course, we will be paying no matter what they achieve at that course. And that actually gives us a better opportunity to see how well all our students are doing within the class. And then next year, we're going to be looking at making it mandatory for all our students to take the test at the end of the course. So students that if you take the course, it will be expected that you take the test at the end of the course. And the reason why we want to do this is because we want to know whether the course itself is being taught at a level where all our students can be successful when they leave. And so it helps us understand what's the content that's being taught in a course, the level that the course, the rigor that that course is being taught at, and whether our students are understanding the rigor. And so next year, like I said, we're going to be asking all our students that take an AP course to take the test at the end. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jones to talk about the culture and climate.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And in order to accomplish and make all the progress that Mr. Lowndes talked about, we have to be solid in this area. So this continues to be one of the goals on the strategic plan, culture and climate. And so you see what the strategies are there. Of course, we want students to feel welcome and engaged and safe in their schools. And so we've asked that each of our schools have a culture and climate strategy in their plan, and to expand options, to work on, look at ways to expand options for students, thereby giving them access to those various engagement opportunities. And so we are helping our schools with that. But to look at a little bit of, was that one of yours? Okay, never mind, here we are. Okay, so look at some of the numbers here, looking at the indicators that we look at as we think about culture and climate. To look back at, again, pre-COVID, the 1920 school year, and then going across to 2021, which was a COVID year, and then 21, 22, and then this past year. Looking at enrollment back before COVID, we were around that 27,500 mark, but then looking at our enrollment this past year, we were 27,500, almost 600, net gain of about 77 more students. But in that caption that you'll see up in that same caption you'll see in that corner there, we had also, with the increase of 77 more students, we had compared to pre-COVID about 956 more discipline violations. And so you can't really look at that and say that 77 more students have, those 77 students caused 956 more violations, but we certainly did have that many more violations, and I think this speaks to the work that our administrators do in having to address those, because they certainly have been addressed, otherwise they wouldn't have been shown up here as a violation. It's something that was noted and addressed, and so just to say that our administrators are working super hard. These issues do come up, and they do have to deal with them. So we did see more violations this past year, but that also leads us to what we are doing to either address them or to prevent them, to curtail them as we know they are coming or see they are coming. And so we have had an increase in our risk and threat assessments, where we know something is on the horizon. We've had signs that something is coming. And so looking back at where we were pre-COVID, at about 117, it was projected if we had finished that school year as far as the number of risk or threat assessments that had occurred. And you see where we are this past year, almost 500. And so again, that jives with the violations. the increase in violations, but also it speaks to the things that we were able to attack perhaps before they became a full-blown violation. These were things that gave us indicators that there was something that was going wrong. And so our student services staff has been hard at work to help our students deal with that or prevent those issues. But at the same time, we're recognizing how taxing this is on that staff, and so we have been able to pour resources in this area to increase staffing in the student services areas because it's a necessary evil. You can see that these are the numbers for last year as far as numbers of positions, folks we had in these positions, and then what we are predicted, what we have been able to finance this coming year. We're adding psychologists, we're adding counselors, the community school coordinators. You heard earlier that we had 2 of those schools last year. We will have 3 more this coming school year, and then 4 more behavioral support staff. So we recognize again that it is needed for us to pour resources into the student services area, and so we have been able to do that. And this will help, we believe, our students social, emotionally. And so that also takes us right into another system-wide initiative that we are using this year through the CASEL framework to ensure that in all of our classrooms there is something that we, in most cases, goes on all the time anyway, but really deliberate and concerted efforts are going to be made moving forward to address, to be sure that we are addressing and hitting on our social emotional learning needs for our students, and what that will look like in each classroom are the 3 signature practices that you see here: the welcoming inclusion activities, the engaging pedagogy, as well as the optimistic closing. So again, not things that are super unfamiliar, setting the tone, making the lesson make sense, transitions and all, and reflecting and looking forward. Not unfamiliar concepts, but certainly concepts that will be, concerted efforts will be made to ensure that those 3 signature practices related to SEL will occur in every classroom this year. And that will occur through our, the learning of how to do that will continue to occur through our school teams that Mr. Lowndes mentioned earlier, our PLTs, our professional learning teams that each school has. And so we are looking forward to infusing those signature practices into all of what we do this coming school year. And so a few other things we have on the horizon here in the student services area, again, recognizing some of our students' needs in the social emotional area. For our secondary schools, there will, for eligible students, there will be the option of having telemental health or telehealth opportunities for some students. We are still working out what that looks like. There may be virtual options, there may be in-person options, but this will be an option for many of our students in the secondary level. We are expanding the number of providers who work with students in the buildings, and we talked about that a little bit before. We're adding staffing. Mental health first aid will be extended to parents and guardians, and so that's something that is relatively new for us. We'll be adding 3 community schools. We mentioned that a moment ago. We had Dr. Mudd and Indian Head, I believe, and so now we're adding Eva Turner, J.P. Ryan, and Dr. Brown, so schools that will have new staff members in their buildings who are not necessarily CCPS employees specifically designed to work with just our children, but also to connect families to these wraparound services, and our building is where they will be housed. And then we're continuing with all our social emotional learning student programs, restorative practices, CPI, PBIS, Move This World at the elementary level, some others, BASE is another one you've heard us talk about before at the middle or the secondary level. So continuing with our efforts in the area of SEL, and then what we are doing moving forward. So there are some new things, additional new things, one of them being the youth engagement advocate. So this position, and we've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, this position has been added to all of our high schools. And this position, I think this might be another slide to talk about. I'll come back to it if not. but position added to our high schools as a resource to the administrative team. So they won't be administrators, but they will be there to assist the administrators with investigating, incidents that come up. They also will be asked to build relationships with students. They are very different. They are not at all an SRO, but they are an adult presence there to help with preventing some things there, again, by establishing relationships with the children, peer mentoring opportunities. We're asking our youth engagement officers, youth engagement advocates. I got to be careful; they're not officers, advocates. So they'll be involved in lots of different trainings to be a good resource, another resource in the building. The ultimate goal being hopefully to add those at the secondary level, at the middle school level, and possibly in the future, possibly even at the elementary level. Restorative practices that we're expanding, some training there for our schools who are looking for refresher opportunities. We are providing PD on full implementation. When we do that, we'll provide the PD on the full implementation of restorative practices. So it's not, just the restorative circles that you've heard. There's more to it than that. So when those trainings do occur for those schools who are looking for the refreshers, they'll get the full monty of what those trainings look like. We'll provide opportunities for model schools to share with their colleagues. So we have schools that are doing very well in this area of utilizing the restorative practices. So we want to be sure that we encourage and we create opportunities for schools and staffs to learn from each other. And we also are standardizing, this may be one of interest to some folks, standardizing the suspension reentry protocol. And so pretty much most people know that when a student is suspended from school, prior to their return, there is supposed to be this parent conference. And but across buildings, that conference may look different. What we want to do is to make that more consistent, because we think there's value in having a truly meaningful kind of conference, not just, okay, you're back, need you to sign and head on back to class. So there are some very specific steps that we're putting together to ensure that we have a standardized process, and that I hesitate to go into all the details of it today with you all because we haven't talked with the principals just yet. It is a part of this week's Leadership Institute, and so I want to be sure that they hear that, but just know that there will be a standardized protocol for what it means when students are returning from suspension. And then the after-school program expansion. So last year we did have 2 middle schools that had an after-school program that we were able to have in place by way of a partnership with county government folks and the sheriff's office and certainly the school system. And so we had it at Smallwood and at Benjamin Stoddard Middle School. Very successful. We are fortunate enough to be able to expand that now to 4 more middle schools. And so, and that also includes transportation to students coming back to the program or getting rides home from the program after, after it's over, after hours. So we are looking forward to that expansion as well. And then how many people know we can't do it alone? So community engagement matters. We thought that would be a nice title for this one. All of our schools have long established partnerships with various stakeholders within the community, and people do it their own way, and it works for them. But at the system level, we wanted to be sure that we had a standard process for inviting new partners. And so through the course of this past school year, in the Community Engagement Office, under Sylvia Royster's leadership, we were able to establish a vetting process, if you will, that people have to follow when coming on as new partners within the school system. And those procedures are established and working pretty well now. We also are looking at enhancing our volunteer process. And so what we have now, what most people are familiar with, is that our volunteers will ask or seek out opportunities to volunteer in the school that they are most familiar with or connected to, where their children go or children have gone or whomever. And so what we see is that in some places there's lots of volunteer support, and in other places there's not much. And so we're looking for ways to maybe, get people to broaden their horizons a little bit, consider volunteering maybe in another school that they may not be as connected with. But we are looking for ways to just sort of spread out some of the support that schools could really use that maybe, it's not happening in some places. So it might mean people stepping outside of their comfort zone a little bit, but we are looking at ways of trying to make that a little more comfortable for people. We think that'll be a benefit to us. And as it stands right now, we have on record 77% of our schools have active PTOs or PTSOs. And so our goal there is to ensure that all of our schools are thriving in this area. And we had some schools doing some really great things, and I think we wanted to perhaps pull that part out of our program, our presentation today, just because sake of time, but we have schools doing great things, and just know that we are encouraging those principals to be open enough to share. We are certainly encouraging our principals to seek out opportunities to learn from each other, and everyone seems to be really open to that at this point. We talked about that yesterday, and we will continue that conversation. And that concludes what we have for you today, except for the questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jones, Mr. Lowndes. A few of us saw this yesterday, but it's great to see it again. Tremendous amount of information. So I'm sure there's some questions, so I will look to my left. I know you have questions. I'm looking. You ready? All right.
Yes.
Questions, are we
Mr.
ready?
Jones, you said my appetite here.
Okay.
Let me go back to it. The youth engagement advocacies. I love that because, as we know, our young kids, they learn from each other. And my hope is one day that they will replace the SROs. I'm going to say that again. One day, it's my hope is for them to replace the SROs, because truly, when we train our young folks, we know that once they get the training, the kids, the small number of kids that are having the issues in school, they will actually learn from them, and they will listen to their peers. So that is my hope. So I am glad that you have brought that to the school, and hopefully that will be something that will be activated, and Charles County will be on the map, and they will be for the state of Maryland, that we could show them that we have brought a program that our children can be able to showcase, that we are showing each other how to be able to do this program the right way. So that's my first one. So the second one is for the bringing the standard suspension reentry back into school. Okay, I know you said you don't want to get into it, but I'm going to make a suggestion, just a suggestion. Okay, when you're taking it back to the principals, if you could just suggest, if it could be when the parents are coming, when the child is coming back into the school, reintroduce them back in. If there could be at least one parent on both sides coming back to the school, and with the student, they're sitting down and making sure that they both understand what happened, that would be a positive reinforcement. Because if they just go back, sign papers, parents come, they don't understand nothing. But when a parent is there, both understand what happened, parents can talk to the child understands. It is power in a parent. And it's power when the child understands what they have done and the parent hears what they have done. There's power in that. So I hope when you take it back.
That we're on the same page.
Okay, all right. That was my only two. Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing that.
You always want parents involved,
Okay.
absolutely. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Ms. Washington. Ms. Perkins.
Hi. I just wanted to add on to what Ms. Butler Washington said as far as the reentry program. I do think that after that, after they meet with both parents and the student and they both understand what happened, at least one more after that, just with the student and the counselor, just in case they have something that they want to talk about or find the root of the issue for them. So I think they should each have one mandatory meeting, at least one more meeting with the counselor to talk about the issue or anything else that they wanted to talk about.
Received.
Thank you. Yeah. Ms. Thomas?
When we have them like out, we have them suspended, do we have like a program that they go into where they're not just going home doing nothing, where they're going to like have a community service, something for them to do, giving them like, you know, it's like a punishment, but you know, not really a punishment, like, okay, you're not going home and just do nothing.
Well, the traditional suspension really just requires a student to not be at the school and under the family supervision. And what that most often looks like is that a student is at home, and parents may be home, parents may not, but they're not in a program, in a traditional suspension or to that effect. Now, when they are suspended to the superintendent and they go through the hearing process where the hearing officer, you know, may then you know, send them to the alternative school for a period of time, then that's considered a suspension. They are being educated in a school building, but not their home school where they were suspended from. So that's a, you know, that not every suspension results in that, but that is something that they have, excuse me, when the student is suspended to the superintendent. But under ordinary circumstances, when they're suspended from school, just a 3 to 5 day up to 9 days suspension, then they are at home, and the family is.
Options that can be changed, because I'm like, if we suspend them and send them home doing nothing, that's like, oh well, I can just go home. If we suspend them and say, okay, you need to do a certain amount of community service or some kind of curriculum for the school to come back, like the teacher has to grade you on something, to come back,
Sure.
to ensure you're doing something positive to earn your way back.
So sometimes anytime we do in-school suspensions, where they're removed from their classroom, but they're in the in-school suspension room or the ISR room, there's certainly some academic work that they are required to do there, so they're still, being educated, stand up to speed on something academically. Again, when they are suspended to the superintendent and go through the hearing process, there are times that the hearing officer is able to recommend that they have something else to do. So the community service you talked about, it might be participating in teen court. So there are some other things sometimes that the community service hours, writing essays or what have you, the hearing officer will often give other things other than you have to just be home for a while and then at the alternative center. But again, so we'll have to think more about what the traditional suspensions look like.
Before they get to the superintendent, that's what I'm thinking.
I understand. A big part of that is inconveniencing the family, so that they sometimes, that's what it comes down to. So the family will help support us in, curtailing whatever this behavior was that actually warranted that. And we know that suspension shouldn't be for everything, but there are times when a suspension is warranted, and then it's really kind of, the family is certainly encouraged to really help us work the situation through and be sure that they learn some sort of lesson. Families sometimes will require their children to do many different things at home because they didn't support that behavior. They are terribly upset that their child is at home, so they'll make life difficult for their children while they're on suspension. That happens a lot.
Before they do it again.
That happens a lot, yes, and we encourage that. We bank on that.
Okay.
But we can't control those that it's not that way. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Chairman Lucas. Before I begin, I think Ms. Perkins just wanted to add a quick point to Ms. Thomas's point.
Okay. Quick point to what Ms. Thomas said. I definitely do agree that they should be doing something when they're suspended, because I'm going to be completely honest with you. With being a student, a lot of students that get suspended, they treat that 3 to 5 days as a vacation. They treat that, oh, we're out of school, like they don't care. So I think that when students are suspended, that it should be an asynchronous day. So either like when we were doing virtual, when we didn't go to actual class, we had an asynchronous day. So we were assigned work that we had to do by a certain time, or whether that means that that student is attending school virtually. So they have to be through a Zoom and they're still doing the work. Or because at the end of the day, if they're getting suspended for 3 or 5 days, they're missing that work. And then they have to catch up on what they missed and what they're doing at that current time when they get back. So doing it virtual, or even if that means meeting with all their teachers before they get suspended, like, and the teachers give them their work, like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing, this is what we're going to be going over. If you have any questions, just email me, call the school, and get forwarded to me so that they can still get their work done.
Very good, very good.
Taking notes here, Dr. Jones?
Sound points, Ms. Perkins. Thank you, Chairman Lucas. Wanted to just add on to Ms. Perkins' point around, it just escaped me, so I'll come back to it. Want to say thank you for the presentation. Appreciate Dr. Navarro, Dr. Lowndes, Dr. Jones sort of putting this together. I think it's very important for the community to have a sense of what's happening within our system overall. I think from a parent standpoint, I know we are mostly focused on what's happening specifically with what's happening specifically in my child's classroom, my child's school, but to understand the health of the overall system, I think is very important, and it's absolutely the job of this board to make sure that the public is aware of it. So appreciate the presentation and the time. In terms of ensuring that families understand some of the data that's been presented, I did see a few of the slides that seemed as if they were leaning more toward being palatable for families, but can you just share a bit about how we're making this information more digestible for the public and for families to understand, perhaps not just what's happening within the overall system, but also specifically the health of their school? Like, how are we making sure that families understand that?
Well, one thing that we did, this past year was schools had some iReady nights where they explained what was going on with their reading and their math scores within their own building. And then one of the areas that we try to get them to understand is that there's plenty of supports that are being available at their schools. Some schools had after schools tutoring, some did it during the day, and some did it prior to the schools. So then to have, extended learning opportunities for families to take advantage for their own personal scores. From a system standpoint, we did have the iReady nights where we went over and we explained from what the report cards look like when you're getting them from iReady, and what the scores mean, and then where you can go and get extra help or extra support from the system as a whole, but then to reach out to your individual schools for their extended learning opportunities.
And I'll just add
I'm sorry.
just one other thing to that. That's a part of the reason also that we are looking for our PTOs and PTSO groups to be thriving and very active, because a lot of those conversations about the overall health of the school, conversations occur in those meetings because, families will bring those things up. Right. And that's a good place to really talk about some of those things. Sometimes they can be listed as agenda items that, things that they should be discussed there. And then there is the PTSO or PTO-PTSO council made up of all of the presidents of all the schools that meet here monthly and talk about generally what things are going on in their buildings. And so that the idea is that the presidents will take those things back and again share some of that with their schools and just sort of talk through. So that group itself is helpful in just keeping a pulse check on what's going on in the schools and sharing that information out as well.
I'll just add, I think it was Ms. Kramer when we were talking at board meetings, or mentioned to me, one of the things that we have to do a better job this year, which I know we brought back school improvement plans last year for all schools, and it was the first time in a while, I think, that we had said we got to have it in school improvement plan, and we're going to use it as a living document to codify what we're doing and what we're working on to improve on as a school site. One of the things that's, as we finalize the school improvement plans approvals through Dr. Jones's office and people codify their work that they're doing on system initiatives as well as the specific culture and climate indicators in their school and what they're doing, I do expect all principals to be sharing that in their parent engagement meetings, because that tells me, you know, at JP Ryan, here's the work that we're doing to improve our engagement of students, to improve our engagement of our families. And so those are very school-specific documents that will be, that have SMART goals, and the data can also be updated to families throughout multiple times that they meet. There's nothing that says that whenever you bring in a community event and you have all kinds of games. I used to be the high school principal that at games, basketball games, football games, would get on the mic and take 5 minutes to tell and shout out how good we were doing on academic indicators and everything else. And parents at first looked at me funny because it was a basketball game, it was a football game, it was a baseball game, but then got used to it. That anytime you come to our buildings and you are engaging with us in any kind of activity, I am going to tell you some good news too, and some of the progress that we're doing, because I think that's an important piece, and I appreciate you bringing that question forward, because I do want to challenge all of our school leaders to be thinking about all the times we see families, and we have access to the mic. And so we should continuously be updating on our progress metrics. And I think the school improvement plan, now that we've brought it back solidly, is a great vehicle, a common vehicle, which families can look at to see, hey, you know, at La Plata High School, here's how we're doing, or at Westlake, here's how we're doing, or Hanson. So good point to discuss with our communities too. Thank you.
And I would add, I mean, as principals are preparing for back-to-school nights, as they're preparing to open their doors to students and families, that's also a great opportunity to share sort of what programs are upcoming, what opportunities there are, especially as you talk about the youth engagement advocates, restorative practices, reentry and volunteer opportunities. There seems like there is a multitude of opportunities to engage students and families, just ensuring that administrators and principals are taking advantage of every opportunity to share. One other thing before we press on, Chairman Lucas, if I may. There was a mention about the AP exams. I am so very excited that we will be taking on sort of paying for those exams. I think it definitely goes to equity, being able to, as opposed to saying we're going to reimburse you outright, we're going to essentially pay for them. I think that definitely looks at barriers that may exist to being able to access the exam and being able to alleviate those for many parents and families. So very excited about that. But you mentioned for the AP pre-calculus, is that going to be in all 5 schools?
Yes.
Similar to how
all
the
of
AP...
our high schools are offering AP pre-calculus.
Okay, great. Those are all my questions.
Quick follow-up to that. Do any of you know, do we as a system do anything regarding payment for SAT exams?
The SAT,
Yes.
so we do not currently pay for the SAT
Okay.
exams.
Are there some systems that do?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I thought, we discussed that before, but just,
I actually
Yeah.
believe, Mr. Lowndes knows about this, there's options to do it an in-school day SAT. But I would love to have a conversation
Sure.
about the SAT and the ACT and college exams.
So if we could have that conversation sooner rather than later, since the budget season's coming up.
Yeah, right.
Because all these things cost money, I just want to let people inform them that. So one of the reasons why, honestly, we're not forcing people to give AP exams this year, and we're still giving them to opt in or opt out, is that we put money in the budget for this coming year, for right now, to currently pay for students to take the AP exam. But in doing that, we looked at the trends over the last 5 years and how many students took AP exams. And that's how we budgeted for this current year. In going forward, we're going to have to look at the enrollment number this year and project a little bit for next year to determine a number of how much we're going to have to put in the budget when we're telling students that they have to take the AP exam at the end of the year. And so that's, you might be wondering why this year we're still allowing them to opt in or not take it. And that's really the reason why, is that, the money that we put in the budget was based on a 5-year projection of how many, or trend line, and how many students took it. And so that's the amount of money we currently have in the budget for the AP exam.
and with the programs we have where you can earn college credit, I'm not sure how much overlap there is there. There might be some with what a student would get for college credit by taking an AP class versus if they took a course of study that got them a college credit for, say, math class, for a calculus class.
Right, and so,
Yeah.
so Maryland still takes it as a college credit, but many of the colleges do not. And so many of the colleges are using it now actually for placement. And they look at, can you take the next level math or the next level, whatever, science class based on how well you did on the AP exam, but they don't actually give you a college credit.
Yeah, okay.
Still saves parents money.
Yeah, for sure. Ms. Warren?
One more thing, guys. Sorry, my bad.
All right.
To piggyback off of what Dr. Navarro said as far as academics, again, like I said, with having the students doing virtual while they're at home, I think that does improve their academics because that is a thing that you guys talk about a lot, academics as far as tests. And even if it's not a standardized test, a lot of teachers either do an end of the unit test or the test in the middle of when they're done teaching on what they're being taught on. So if I'm suspended and I'm not doing any work, so now I have to catch up. And then I'm behind, and that's something that we don't want. And also, as far as communication, when it comes through the teachers and the parents, because some parents will call the teachers and be like, well, why is my child failing? And the teachers are trying to explain to them, well, this is what we're doing, this is what they didn't do, or what they didn't turn in, or they're behind on this, or they were suspended at this time, and they didn't get that work done, so now they're behind on what they need to be taught, and they're not being taught that. So I think that goes to that.
What Ms. Perkins said, no.
Ms. Perkins has made that point pretty clear. Gotcha.
I did want to speak to that when you started talking about it as well. In addition to everything Ms. Perkins said, even having something, and I know you don't want to get into the weeds of it all because you're just planning it, but when we talked about the parents coming back with the students and having that sit down and having an understanding, I don't know if you could put something in place where, while they're home, they have to actually bring something back, a work of their product to say, and have that signed off as well. And it could be around the student code of conduct. Like whatever the behavior was, maybe have them explore that when they were home, whatever violation they, conduct they broke or whatever, that they could kind of explore that too, in addition to their academics. Put that student code of conduct, just to reiterate, hey, this is what the expectations are for you. And, bringing that back, as a sign off, and then the parents sit down and y'all could discuss around that, but that's just my 2 cents. In addition to that, this was a really good presentation. Thank you for sharing everything. As far as the professional development goes, my question is, one, how many, you said this summer you had some trainings. Was it maybe like 1 or 2? Was it a week long? How many hours? And my second question, in addition to that, when you do training for, say, SEL, is there separate content training in school climate, like professional development? Are they apart? Do you do 2 different? Is that
Like the last 2 days, and today's one of those days, we did conscious discipline for our pre-K teachers. And that's a 2-day training where people get a better understanding of how to relate with students that at early, age 4 that are misbehaving, and and it's really focused in on teacher moves and the belief system and how to handle a student at that age who's not behaving the way that you quite want them to behave. And so that was a 2-day training, and that's required to be a certain amount of hours where we hired out with a company to provide that training. And so it really does depend on what we're offering.
Mm-hmm.
So the geometry training, we hired Illustrious Math, and they actually came in and provided the training in that. But the earlier grades, our teachers themselves that were trained as teachers are providing the Illustrious Math for the elementary level. And making sure that they get the content that they need to go forward if they're a new teacher or have never taught illustrious math before. So it really does matter as to what the length of training is depending on the amount of material that needs to be covered. One of the things that we did was during summer school and during the boost is that, with those days being Monday through Thursday, we use Friday as a day of professional learning. Because many of the teachers were already here, they weren't on vacation, they were already teaching. We had so many teachers teaching during Summer Boost and summer school that they went ahead and they took advantage of the trainings that were being offered on Fridays as well. So we looked at various times. We also, thanks to the board and Dr. Navarro, we added 2 mandatory training days prior to the pre-service days. And so it's allowing us to train every elementary teacher and every special education teacher on de-escalation skills. That is the training that our folks take when they go through a training by for the restraint and seclusion, but it doesn't give them that part of the training. It only gives them the part where you're trying to de-escalate a situation in your classroom or in a school building. And so hopefully by giving all of our teachers in the elementary level that training, we will have some of our incidents go down. But so those are a few of the trainings that we're being offered, but we are constantly looking at what needs to be offered. The challenge has really been the amount of new teachers that are coming in that have not gone through a traditional teaching program. Many of our teachers, if you were organizing trainings 10 or 20 years ago, you would take for granted that they would get some of these trainings in their teacher prep program. But now we have so many teachers that are coming in, or folks that want to teach, that have not had any teacher prep program, that we are really offering the basics in teaching as well as offering the content courses.
We understand.
If I can add, one of the requests that I made to the board for the September board meeting is doing an opening of schools overview. I know this is state of the schools. And we tend to talk quite a bit about, frankly, it's a lot about the projects and facilities. It's designated to give you an update of everything that we did this summer. But the other aspect that it also has is what did we do this summer with our staff? And so as I hear the conversation, what kind of professional development, and some conversations that we had about professional development, who are we training, what are we training on? And yesterday I made, if you were not at the launch of our Leadership Institute, I just quoted some numbers that, in the year of 2018, this school system had maybe up to 50 teachers that had a conditional certificate. So those are the teachers that Mr. Lowndes mentions that have not gone through a formal teaching degreed program and are teaching for us. This year, we may have up to 500. So the teaching force, the things that Mr. Lowndes talks about, the things like de-escalation skills, basic classroom management, basic introduction to pedagogy, how do you teach, how do kids learn, what's the development of the brain and the learning and the behaviors that you have from kids who start with us from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. That's the kind of work that we're having to double down and do. And what my suggestion would be, if the board agrees to having that topic also in September, is that we can also quantify, because we trained this summer thousands of teachers, to be honest with you. They've just gotten different kinds of training depending on what they needed. Special education teachers for the first time have to go through some mandatory trainings. And perhaps we can also detail some of those things about which trainings, why. But the one that we're talking about with the behavior components, as Dr. Jones clearly showed, you cannot talk to educators about the impact of what happened to our youth because they lived it through those violations, right? Educators, their job is not to enforce the code of conduct. They're to help, nurture, support student learning. We've had to enforce the code of conduct quite a bit, and that's as a result of the impact on our youth of coming out of the pandemic, no question. But it also has doubled down on how much we are spending on resources to do professional development, like de-escalation trainings. And so, yes, this summer, we hit all elementary teachers. Next summer, it's all secondary teachers and any new elementary teachers. The following summer after that is everybody else who's new. And then every summer after that will be anybody new. And so that has become now a staple of the professional learning requirements of everybody coming in, because everybody needs a refresher or an intro on that class. And I will just say that when I talk to instructional assistants, they have asked for a lot more of this kind of training as well. Our teachers, our instructional assistants have asked, and we have added resources to add these additional support days, because to their credit, they just want to know how to support our kids the best. And so we have reallocated a lot of resources to talk about that.
One quick question. That's awesome. Thank you for the clarification. So I understand that. Will these de-escalation trainings or any other, I know you talked about mental health first aid, which is an awesome training. I can't wait to take it. I think y'all opened it up to us, right? The mental health first aid? I think you did. But anyway.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We did.
It's an excellent.
No, we did. I know
Yeah,
we did.
it's an excellent training. Will there be, will this continue on throughout the school year, like little refreshers of de-escalation?
Yes,
as
because we
needed?
know
I guess
not
on an
everyone's
as
going to be
needed.
able to make it.
Yeah,
And so
right,
we
okay.
we put in times during the day or the year to go ahead and put additional trainings in.
And one,
If I can add just a piece to that, so the de-escalation piece doesn't include the physical restraint and
Correct.
that sort, except for the administrators. So the
Okay.
administrators do get the rest of that, where they are trained on how to do the physical restraint or, breaking people up and all of that.
And
CPI
our
is what the.
special education teachers
Yes.
and IAs that work in our programs, our discrete programs, our self-contained programs where behaviors
And they're getting that
are
this week.
such.
and one more quick question. I know you said maybe this is new too, but the telehealth system or telehealth service, will that be like a referral base, like maybe from I don't know, I don't even know how that would be referred, because we don't want to.
So this is a company that Prince George's County currently uses, and it's based off having conversations with Prince George's County and in the way they implemented it and their best practices and what they've learned, is that it really is for secondary, middle school and high school students, because it's talking to someone through the computer. And then they suggest that you have to have it within proximity of somebody, because if the conversation goes south, they have to be able to contact someone at the school who can go into the room and be there for that student if there needs additional help and additional support. And there also has to be someone available if a student comes out of that room, because we're going to ask every school to put a room aside or a place for students to go to access a computer and to access the telehealth. We're working with Dr. Blanchard right now to kind of identify what student we're talking about, what's the profile of the student, because as Dr. Jones said earlier, we also are looking to increase the number of in-person providers. We have an RFP out there for individuals to be able to apply to provide in-school services, as well as looking at bigger companies that are able to provide more help and more supports. So we're looking at having a variety of sources so that anyone that needs help and support next year will be able to either get it through the telehealth or in person.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Creamer?
Thank you so much. Even though I saw this yesterday, it was actually good to see it again because it's so much information. But I had a couple of questions, but I just first wanted to point out that I think the information that's being provided is great, to Ms. Smith's point that the, parents and the community understands the state of our schools, where we are, and I'm excited to see where we're going forward and all these added supports and things that are being put in place to ensure the success of not just our students, but our staff. Too. So really excited about that. I even love the presentation because there's real people in there from our school system. So I recognize Mr. Burton, and great math teacher, by the way. Shout out to Mr. Burton. And I think Ms. Hungerford too. So, and just love seeing the students, our students in the presentation. So I thought that was a great little detail there. One of my questions is, and I don't know if you're going to go into this in detail later, as Dr. Navarro was referencing, but just curious how many teachers participated in PD this summer? And were there certain trainings that were required, or was this all optional?
So the required trainings, so there's both, is my answer. So during the summer, up until those 2 days that we have designated for everybody to participate, mandatory training days, those 2 days will be mandatory.
Okay.
But up until then, this summer, they were not mandatory. But we did have, and I'll have to give you the numbers, a great participation, for example, of all the geometry teachers, because they knew they were teaching geometry next year, and they knew that they wanted to take advantage of the illustrious math curriculum. And one of the things is we wanted to offer it this summer so that they could have the training before they started the year. We will have trainings, though, during the year for those that weren't able to take advantage of it this summer to make sure that they get the training and the curriculum.
Great.
And so I can get you those numbers, I think, when we come back in this week, because we haven't finished the trainings yet. We still have pre-service week where we provide a lot of trainings, and we have those 2 mandatory days that are right before pre-service that we're going to be providing the trainings as well. So I'll be able to get you the amount of teachers, the total number of teachers that took advantage of all the trainings and the trainings that we offered.
That'd be great, thank you. And then just can you, for the benefit of the public, just explain illustrious math briefly, what that is? Because I feel like there may be a lot of parents that don't know what that means, and why it's important, why that shift for teaching and learning, if you wouldn't mind.
So it's more of a conceptual way of learning math. So those of us that learned it, when we learned it, it was much more formulaic, right? So they would give you very rote, this is, you have to learn this, you do this first, then you do this, and then you do that. And we didn't necessarily get the understanding of what it meant and why it happened. It was just follow these directions and you're going to get the right answer.
Right.
And so some people were very good at following directions, and therefore they ended up getting the answer, and they didn't necessarily know why. And the people that did know why ended up becoming your engineers and your people that loved math. Now the idea is to get people to understand the number concepts very early. What does the number 1 mean? What's the number 2? Get them to use manipulatives to get them to understand it, and then to continue using a very, the same types of ideas going forward, where you conceptually understand what's happening with the math. And you're interacting more with the math in a way that brings math to life, and hopefully allows people to understand it at a much deeper understanding.
Great.
So I do know, I've heard from parents that have learned one way and their kids are learning another, and they get frustrated because they're not able to help their child because their children are telling them, no, that's not the way we're learning it in school.
Been there.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully they have a deeper understanding than all of us on what the numbers mean and why they do what they do.
Okay, I think that's a good explanation. Thank you for that. And I loved hearing about the added coaching and supports, mentoring supports for the teachers. I really think that's important. Obviously, we have to take care of our staff so that they can take care of our students. I just wanted to make sure that, as I think Dr. Navarro mentioned, our IAs have requested it, and just to remember the support staff too, because they do deal with students on a daily basis and parents and other folks that they interact with at the school level, and just not to leave them out, when it comes to, just basic concepts, conflict resolution, and just make sure we're supporting them as well, and providing opportunities for them to be supported and mentored, if they need it. Just want to make sure, to put that in there. Regarding the pre-K expansion, do you know what kind of outreach is taking place so that we make sure that we're capturing all the families? I know you said it's typical that we get applications late in August, but particularly thinking about English learners, I know that, we talked about this before, and they may not be aware, that pre-K is even an option for them. So what type of outreach has been taking place to make sure that we're capturing all the families that we can?
So we work with Department of Health and Human Services, and they help us get the word out. We also, Shelley and her folks do a great job of letting folks know when we open up for the applications and putting something out to all of our families to let them know it's out there and available. And we work with, at the Title I schools, we worked with family coordinators, liaisons to work with the families to let them know that the applications opened up and able to help and support with that process.
Okay, so we're engaging some outside community agencies to make sure that we're capturing
Yeah.
families who may qualify. Okay, great.
I have a quick question. It follows up to that, but you have another question on the
I
pre-K?
do.
Okay.
No, not about pre-K, but go
Okay.
ahead.
I just want to make sure I got your numbers right. I think you said you reviewed 765 applications.
That's what I wrote
Let
down.
me get my actual numbers here.
That's what I wrote down, 765, yeah.
765, and 419 of those were Title Ones.
Tier 1.
Sorry,
Tier one, yeah.
Tier 1, thank you. So, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers from last year, and so, and like you said, you tend to get a big rush in the end, and last year we had 958, so you're expecting a lot more.
So we get a big rush both for pre-K and for kindergarten.
Right.
And so, one of the things that we're constantly trying to get folks to understand is, it's better actually if you enroll early and get your, applications in and register for kindergarten and for pre-K and, because what ends up happening, with our kindergartners, they'll show up the first day of school, they haven't registered, and then there's a line to get people in. And we do have folks that will help and support schools to get it in, but it does sometimes take a couple of days, and I know sometimes they're contacting board members to get some extra, just to let you know that they've been in line, they haven't been able to register to get their child into kindergarten. So, I'm hoping that we can get the word out and get folks to register both for kindergarten and for pre-K.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had the numbers right, because
Yeah.
obviously, just based on last year, there's a lot of people that haven't done it yet.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, Ms. Tom,
I
Ms.
can
Ms.
make
Tom.
a suggestion. National Night Out is when everybody's out giving away stuff, and all the families out with the kids and stuff. I think that's a good time to advertise
Just have that.
for
Great idea.
National
Yeah, it just
Night Out.
happened.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
always
Last
the
week.
first Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I had called out to the, or emailed you, and I said it was kind of late in the game, but that would probably be a good time to do it.
Yeah, and I think, Shelley, did we send something to the PIO? I think we did send something to the sheriff's office on, everybody go to this website, because we have that one place in the website where it's everything for registration, where you go if you're pre-K, for national. But the other thing that I just want to put out there for everybody, this is a good point that Ms. Kramer's making. We need to hit the faith-based communities. We need to get out there to our faith-based communities. We need to get out there for the Hispanic community, to the supermarkets where they go. And we need to, because I try to go into Safeway and Giant, and they all told me I couldn't leave flyers. I need to call their corporate headquarters in Maryland to get in there, because I thought, can we just stand in front of the supermarkets then? But I do think, yes, it is a huge frustration of mine, because right now, if you ask me how many students are enrolled in CCPS today, I can, without a doubt, tell you without asking upstairs that we are right now under-enrolled, and it's absolutely not going to be the September 30th account. It's always last minute. It drives me bonkers that we have late registrations. And frankly, I do think it's important to point out the affinities of certain communities to get into those neighborhoods where we know we have families that need to register for any grade level, but let alone that we also know that we may have children that will qualify for Tier 1, so that we get a true picture as early as possible of that. And to be honest, so that we also, for the families that are waiting to hear about Tier 2 possible seats, or maybe even Tier 3 possible seats, that we may have available, how quickly we can do that. So absolutely take on that feedback, and I wrote myself a note to hit the boots on the ground, and not just from our typical people who are doing it right now, which is the Title I office and the early childhood, but to garner more support from other offices to be able to get out to those communities. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and that was another point I was going to make, because always we hear from families who are like, I'm waiting to hear, and sometimes I don't hear until school starts already, the Tier 2 or the Tier 3 families, and this has been the case in previous years as well. And, not knowing that that's part of the reason, but it's also a frustration, because these families also have to make arrangements for their children if they're not going to get into pre-K. They need to make arrangements, and kind of waiting until after school starts, it would be too late, because they have to make sure they have arrangements made. So it's kind of a domino effect. And if you need help, I'm happy to volunteer to come out. So let me know.
And the other thing is with the pre-K, many often, the application that they submit needs more information.
Right.
And so I think we have 85 applications right now we're still going back and forth to get more information.
Right,
From those
So-
families. That, we do need, documentation on income and things like that now, so.
Right.
With the pre-K, and so.
Understood.
It's never, I've just submitted, but I haven't heard. It's usually, our folks upstairs working with those families intensively to make sure that they're getting all the correct documentation in.
Yeah, understood. Thank you for that. There's something else I just wanted to mention. I'm so happy to hear about the system-wide implementation of the standardized CASEL framework, because that's something, as you know, I have brought up before. We have Move This World and we have all these other programs that are great, but I have seen it myself personally that it wasn't being implemented with fidelity and standardized sort of across the board. So I'm really happy to hear there's going to be those 3 pieces of the CASEL framework that's going to be sort of system-wide, because I think that's really important. Anything that's not consistent is not going to work as well as it's intended to. So I'm really happy to see, how that impacts our numbers in terms of discipline actions and things like that, suspensions and all, at the end of the school year with this new standardized implementation of CASEL. So really love to hear that. And my last question is about the youth engagement advocate. So first, just want to clarify, these are adult positions. So I think some people thought these were peers, but they're not. These are adult positions, correct?
No, they are adults. So
Right.
I'll be honest that we struggled on what to call the position. We wanted them to work with youth. They are not officers. We want them to
Got it.
advocate. We want them to engage. And so we finally landed on this being the name of the position, but they are not. They are adults.
Oh, yeah,
They're not kids.
no problem with the name. I just wanted to clarify, because I
Yes.
think that was a misunderstanding with some. So just want to make sure so everyone understands, one, for the benefit of the public, two, that they are called youth engagement advocates, but that they are adults that are going to be working in the buildings.
And I think they were, I keep interrupting you, but
No, it's
you just, I think, we, and you were there, I think a part of this we talked about in the equity committee.
Yes.
That was one of the
We did
things
talk about
that came out of this,
Yeah.
was to have somebody, and we couldn't pin the title, but
Yep.
I don't know if you work with Mr. Oyster, but this kind of fits the bill.
No,
Perfect.
absolutely. And I
Okay.
just wanted to know, it's my last question, sorry,
Yeah,
Chairman
no,
Lucas.
all good.
Have all those positions been filled?
5 of the 7. We thought we had them all filled, but ultimately the people do have to accept the job. And so 5 of the 7 right now are filled, and the other 2 will be filled very soon, we believe. Yes.
Great, thank you all so
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
I have 2 more things, if I can.
Please.
Okay, the first thing is, what is the number of times that students can get suspended for fighting or whatever before they're sent off to the alternative school? Because I've seen firsthand where students have fought and been suspended, they come right back to school, 3 to 5 days, however long they're suspended, depending on the situation, and they come right back and they fight again, and then they're suspended, and it's just a cycle. So what is the number of times or strikes that students have before they're sent to the alternative school?
So there is not a set number. What we do ask our administrators to do is to be watchful of that. And when they've gotten to the point where they have to implement that as a discipline suspension, then to start watching it then, and to monitor it carefully, and don't let it become excessive where we're just doing that. There does come a time when, especially if the behavior is the same, it becomes known as chronic. And chronic behavior does, in some instances, warrant a higher level of consequence, which would mean suspension of the superintendent. But I can't say that's the case for every single situation. So there are some situations that are different than others. And so while it may look like the student is only being suspended again and again, there may be some other things that are happening in between there, some other interventions, some other outside resources that are being that the families are having to be a part of. There could be, I just can't really say that, but just suspensions with nothing else, we don't like to see where that is a chronic just kind of thing, just that we have to be doing something else too. And sometimes that does mean going a little further down the suspension line to the superintendent. And sometimes that means accessing some other resources, but there isn't really a set number that after 5 you automatically go to the superintendent. they might be different reasons they got suspended. We don't like any of them. And certainly, it doesn't have to be that they all are the same, kind of behavior in order for them to go. It could be that they are different, but each situation is looked at a little bit differently. But the chronic behaviors that warrant suspension, we do ask our administrators to take a close look at that, and let's not just keep doing the exact same thing over. We may need to do something different.
Okay, and then you kind of answered my other one as far as like every case being viewed differently, because I've seen situations where somebody was attacking the other person, so they were defending themselves, but they still got the same penalty as the person that was attacking them. So.
Yeah, you should have been at some of our meetings last spring. We had lots of talk about that self-defense, and we are going to continue those conversations, but they are looked at very carefully, very individually. There are some things now based on our code of conduct that are required in order for a student to use the claim of self-defense. The student has to, and once it's investigated, it has to have been shown that the student has made concerted efforts to avoid, escape, or evade that situation in order for it to be deemed a situation where they used self-defense.
Okay.
If they can't say that they tried to avoid, escape, or evade that, if we can't prove that, then it may not be recognized as self-defense, but we got to really dig completely into that and investigate it thoroughly before we make a determination on it.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is a thing as self-defense. Yes, it's in the code of conduct, and it is new. There is a thing now this year, so we look at it carefully before we make that decision.
Okay, I'm actually done this time.
Okay.
Mr. Hancock, right?
I'll be very
Yeah.
brief. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. I have one question in regards to the youth engagement advocates. What would their typical day look like in the school system?
Well, they are being trained in so many different areas right now, the de-escalation being one of them, CPI, CPR, the restorative practices. They are also being trained in, what is the other thing? Mediation, peer mediation. So their days may not look exactly alike across the board, but when they are not assisting with an investigation and they are in the hallways, we really want them to just be building relationships, talking to kids, being in the know, appropriately, of course, and then being a person who is a liaison to the administrators, working very closely with the administrators, sharing with them the information that they're hearing, that something may be bubbling, may be brewing, giving some guidance on where we might need to think about repositioning administrators to, be on duty, just watching out for certain things. I can't say that's going to look exactly like in every building every day, but those things they will be involved in, just a lot of those things, and some others. It's a brand new position. It's certainly going to grow for us as far as what we want them to do, but they'll have a hand in lots of things that really serve as a resource or support to the administrative team, but also at the same time being someone who establishes the kind of relationships where kids can trust them and want to go and talk to them, very similar to what they do with some of our SROs now too. But that's kind of the idea. May look a little different day to day, but that's the idea. At least now, until we do it a year, then we might have a better idea as to how this really, what else we want to do with it. That's all.
So if an actual altercation is happening, will that person, that staff member, have any role at that moment that altercation is
Yes,
happening?
they will be expected to assist in breaking up that altercation. Yes, because they will have some of the CPI training. They will have some of that training to be able to do that, and so we do expect them to. That's a little different than some other staff members. We can ask and hope, but we can't require it for this position. We are asking them to.
Well, we're coming to
help with
the,
that.
yeah, and later today, we're actually coming to the board to change the language in our policy so that officially they can do that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Butler Washington.
Mr. Jones, you could have corrected me. I was excited. I love my youth. And when my youth are involved, I just knew it was a youth because I saw the youth there.
Oh, you thought it was a student?
I thought it was a
I'm sorry.
student.
I didn't realize you thought that. My
Yes,
apologies.
I did.
Next time I correct you.
Yes, just correct me. But still, the same scenario is the same, because the bottom line is, of course, that in the future, I still want that to be replaced, the SROs to be replaced with these people, because I think it's still a better outlook and a better bridge for this. Because the police is for us, and this naming is for the school. So it's still a bridge for me. So it's still the same. So I still like the concept that you have. But still, in the future, when I said it, youth can do the same thing, because I have shared that in the process that other schools have had this, where the youth, they have these programs in there where youth do the same thing. They don't do the breaking up of the fighting but stuff. They have the peer where they assist their peers in doing the same thing and making sure and stuff. So
Okay, all right.
we're good.
So
Thanks.
I will say, if I may, Mr. Lucas, that one of the things Dr. Jones and I discussed also in their trainings, and I think he briefly mentioned it, is that we're looking to have those individuals maybe be trained and lead our peer mentoring programs in the high schools.
Okay.
And so they can be trained and they can be the staff member. Sometimes we talk about, who sponsors, who supports peer mentoring. You heard from Stoddard that did a peer mentoring sponsored by one of the staff members. We think this could be a great position in the high schools, and eventually, it's our plan to ask for these positions in the middle schools, that they are the staff member that gets fully trained and can get the peer mentoring programs really up and going in our high schools.
So I have a couple of things. One, and the youth advocate, just for everyone's sake, mutually exclusive from an SRO, different function. So
Absolutely.
It'd be great to think one day we didn't need SROs, didn't need police in certain situations, but SROs are there for safety, number one. And these, this new position is more to increase school climate and discipline and things like that. So they are two different functions. Just wanted to emphasize that. But my question revolved around, I had one slide 24, where we talked about connecting students after graduations through rigorous options. And I just wanted to ask a question and amplify a point, and maybe there's a footnote. There you go. It says all data is sourced from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I assume these are probably national numbers, I'm going to guess. Okay. So, there's a lot of things, not just, you could pick any school district, but there's things at a national level, be it school safety, be it the quality of education, that get kind of projected on a school system, good, bad, or indifferent. I would say that at our level here, that all those numbers, just because of where we are geographically, are higher at all levels, but particularly higher at the bachelor and associate / certification level. And so it's really incumbent. I mean, if you're here, you kind of hit the geographic lottery in your opportunity to get a quality education and work at a good paying job with good benefits, and whether you like it or not, agree with it or not, it's courtesy of the federal government, either directly or indirectly. So it's really incumbent that we all, I think, embrace this, and no, college isn't for everyone, but these pathways to certifications are extremely important, and as is a relevant college degree. And I think we need to continue to drive that home, and parents need to be aware of that, because it's a reality. It's a reality, and it's even more important because of where we are, because everything tends to cost a little more here than in other parts of the country, that we have to make sure that we're giving kids the skills they need to continue after high school. So I just wanted to amplify that point, and I'm not putting words in the superintendent's mouth, but I think she understands that, and that's why she's so heavy in wanting to get all these different certification programs and different career levels, because it's what you need. It's what you need. I mean, you know, a generation ago, a high school diploma may have been enough, but it's just not today, and particularly in this area, in this geographical area. So just wanted to amplify that, but thank you. All right. Good presentation, good discussion from the board. Really appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Before y'all go, sorry, my bad. Another thing, so when it comes to breaking up fights and things, you mentioned the administrators and staff. Shouldn't it be the SROs, because you never know what a student may have, and like what if they have a weapon or something like that and they're intending to hit that child, but they end up hitting a teacher or a staff?
So no, we don't ask the SROs to be the first or primary person involved in that. We expect our school administrators to take the lead in that. That's what, you know, their charge is. It's a school function, it's a schoolhouse, and so they have the first and primary charge over the students. So they're expected to be the first ones involved in that. Now, do we have situations where the SRO is asked to help? Absolutely. You know, particularly at the high school level where there are bigger students and perhaps more violent than maybe one or two administrators might, you know, be able to handle. There are times that they are asked to assist, but they're not the first go-to, not for schools. The school staff will be the first go-to when it comes to breaking up fights.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks. Gentlemen, appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. This was the abbreviated version.
Yes, just want to point out.
Yeah, just.
Exactly.
All good. Miss Acton, Miss Acton and Mr. Schwartz, please. So, as they come up, you know, after, you know, we had a lot of healthy, good discussion. That's not to you, just to the board, at our retreat about a number of things. So, I thought it was, and, you know, anything that we do as a board, whether you realize it or not, it has an impact in two ways. It's a financial impact and it's a resource impact. I mean, it just is. You may think that it's the most, pass a policy, that it's the most benign thing, but that policy has to get enacted, and there's some expenditure of dollars and or people to make that happen. So Ms. Acton is going to run through our budget line in the overall school budget, and Mr. Schwartz is here to talk about a couple of specific things related to conferences and professional development, things of that nature. So please, Ms. Acton.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So our first slide shows you your fiscal year 2024 budget. Excuse me. And these are the line items that we have the dollars budgeted for. We can certainly move within these areas if we don't want those amounts.
Sorry, Karen, can I just for the viewing public,
Sure.
this is the board's budget.
Yes, this is the board's budget right here.
The elected
Yes.
Board of Education's budget.
Yes, exactly.
Which is contained in the Charles County Public School FY 2024 budget.
Yes, it's a part of our budget, but it is the budget of the board. So we have $1,500 for advertising or publications, $500 for other contracted services, $5,460 for office supplies, food purchases, $17,250, other supplies and materials, $5,000, dues and subscriptions, $50,250, and then professional development, $27,000, for a total of $106,960. We have not included the salary line for this presentation, since it, you know, is not relevant to what you're wanting to discuss.
So,
Yes.
so no, I'll go ahead and run through, because I'm sure
Okay.
there'll be questions at the end, sorry.
So on, just a little bit of explanation on what would be charged under those categories. Under advertising or publications, it would be any type of advertising services that you might want to do, or a brochure or something like that you would want to have printed. Other contracted services would be miscellaneous contracted services provided by an outside vendor or agency, very small amount in there. On the next slide, we get to office supplies, $5,460. I think that's self-explanatory. That would be WB Mason, Office Depot, those types of things. So the food purchases, which encompass the 11 annual board meetings and the 10 annual board work sessions. And we also did include in there how much we spent on it this year, which was the $16,983. The final category on this page is other supplies and materials, $5,000. Last year, we did purchase new robes, as everyone is aware, which was $9,095. So this is somewhat of a miscellaneous category, depending on what's needed. So your major category is dues and subscriptions, $50,250. It includes magazine subscriptions and dues to professional organizations. MABE dues and legal services last year was $33,228. NSBA connection fee, $8,620. And board doc subscription is $7,800. And then the last category that we have is $27,000 for professional development. This would be the expenses that are associated with your conferences and seminars and other professional development that if you were to bring in a speaker, a mediator, that type of thing. So last year we spent $7,950 on NSBA conference, $2,790 on the MABE conference, and there was additional airfare and hotel expense of $12,663. Mileage, additional mileage reimbursement would show up here if it was warranted, or meals while at a conference. So that gets a little confusing. It kind of leads into Mr. Schwartz's part because you are reimbursed. You have an auto allowance that is given to you monthly. So the last slide is for Mr. Schwartz.
So state law already explains how much you were supposed to receive for travel and other expenses as board members. That's set out in state law. The chairperson receives $1,500. Each other board member receives $800 for travel and other expenses. We put that through the salary expense, which is taxed as salary, because that's how the IRS expects us to handle that. There's also another provision of the law that says that after submitting expense vouchers and other receipts, you're allowed to receive up to $1,000 reimbursement per year for out-of-pocket expenses in attending out-of-county meetings and conferences related to official duties. The problem with this is the related to official duties is not defined in law, and the board has never explained what that means for our board. So it's our recommendation at some point, either through board policy, through guidance that the board adopts, through your handbook that I know is being worked on, that the board come up with some agreed upon understanding of what related to official duties actually means. Now, it doesn't prevent you as board members from ever using your own funds and own money to go to conferences or other activities anywhere you want to go as an individual. But if the board is going to be reimbursing you for it, this has to be further defined, I think, by the board.
All right.
Are there questions for
So,
us?
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I think it's enlightening, I think, to the board and the public as well. And so part of this, and this can lead into discussion later on in the program, there was talk about going to additional conferences. So this is one of the reasons that I asked Ms. Acton and Mr. Schwartz to provide this presentation. Because you can see, again, what's spent now on professional development. And just to run through that, well, let me back up a little bit, actually. So where it says dues and subscriptions, so we pay, as does every county, pays a fee to MABE, correct, Mr. Schwartz?
Correct.
And that is based on the enrollment of the school system, correct?
Correct.
And so it's a
tiered system.
The tiered system, okay. And so most of that $33,000 is for MABE dues, is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. And then there is a fee to belong to NSBA, as you see there. And then, of course, for the board docs subscription. So I think that is kind of self-explanatory. So, but the professional development, again, we could talk about it briefly now. I think later on we can talk about it in a little more detail as we discuss the handbook. But with that, I saw Ms. Creamer and then Ms. Warren.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Ms. Acton and Mr. Swartz, for presenting this. This is very helpful information to have, because before we got to the totals, I was like, well, I would like to know not just what the budget is, but what have we spent? So this is really helpful information. So thank you again. I just had a question about how the budget was determined, and was the budget increase from the previous years due to the increase in the board? So you had 7 members before. Obviously, there's going to be more expenses now that we have, with a student member, 10-member board. So was that adjustment made?
Yeah, the salary and the auto allowance was increased, but actual expenditures for conferences, travel, those types of things were not increased.
Okay, and so how was that decision made? Because it would seem to me that everything across the board would have to increase, because obviously if the membership or attendance is paid for each individual, and we have 2 more individuals, then we're going to need additional funds.
Well, at that point in time, we were well under budget each year, so didn't really anticipate that there would be an increase needed at that time, other than we knew we needed to pay the salary and the allowances.
Okay, and so was an increase made for next year's budget?
So this year's budget is set.
I'm sorry, for this year, for 23, 24, that's what I meant, yes. So I'm assuming this is 22, 23, is that correct?
No, this is the current budget that you're working.
This is the correct,
yes.
okay, so this is 23, 24, got it. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a quick question about, I see, so the professional developments, and my understanding, being new, most of our professional development came through MABE, is that correct? So we have is that correct for the most part? And the conferences, of course.
Sure. I mean, MABE has a lot of professional development that's easily accessible.
So this line for professional development, does that cover all the other conferences, or no? I'm just trying to figure out.
So there's no, Mr. Schwartz can elaborate. So a lot of the MABE professional development, is there a charge for all of that?
So obviously, there's a fee to go to the MABE conference itself.
Not the
There's also-
conference, but.
Right, there's also what's called the Boardsmanship Academy, which
Right.
are trainings throughout the year, Open
Right.
Meetings Act and Parliamentary Procedure and legislation, there's different trainings. Those are a fee to attend each of those. It's
Right.
not an automatic charge you have to pay to actually attend. And so that would be included, I'm assuming, by this professional development.
Oh,
amount
that's
as well.
included in the professional development.
Well, it's included in that line. It's
Okay.
not,
That's
it's,
what it's paid from.
right,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's not shown like on slide 6. So the NSBA conference, or the MABE conference, that's just for that conference.
Oh, okay.
So that
Slide
budget
5.
line of $27,000, yes, that's where those various items that if you took boardsmanship or anything else from MABE, it would come out of that
Oh, okay.
$27,000.
And so that line on slide 5, the 33,000, that's just for dues and legal service dues. That 33.
Correct. That's separate.
Oh, okay, so that has nothing to do with those those
Correct.
trainings that are paid.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's it, yeah,
That's good.
that's all I got.
Did you have something, Ms. Kramer, or?
Nope.
Ms. Buller Washington, sorry.
Okay, the courses that you mentioned that that you said that pay for, like the Open Act, okay, a lot of the board member don't go to those fees, those classes. So those monies are taken regardless if you go to the classes or not?
No, we pay MABE for each board member who attends those particular sessions. Only MABE members can go, obviously, so we are a member of MABE, we're eligible to go, but if we go to those particular Boardsmanship Academy sessions, you pay to go to each individual session.
Okay, and the MABE
I could
conference?
jump in for a second, which is why it wasn't clear that there needed to be an increase in the budget, because it depends on how active the board is and what they do. So I'm just saying that the previous boards, there was a surplus. We didn't have as much activity, maybe I should say, even though there were fewer people. Not everybody went or participated in all things.
Okay. And the MAID conference, you don't have to go to the MAID conference, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
You don't have
So,
to go to the NSBA conference either.
right. So you could substitute that for another conference, right?
No.
Say if I wanted to,
Well, the understanding from historically has been, as a member of MABE, as a member of NSBA, this would be deemed professional development for the board. The board would pay for the board members to go to those particular conferences. It wasn't an amount given to the board members to go to whatever conference they wanted to. It would have to be NSBA and MABE, since we're members of those organizations. That's historically how we've done it.
right, but isn't CUBE a member of all of those too? They all encompass one.
We are not a member of CUBE, which is the Council of Urban Boards of Education. Some boards in Maryland are members. We are not a member. If we were to become a member, then the board can decide that we can go to those conferences as well, and the board would pay. But we're not a member of CUBE at this time.
But what I understand is all of them are in it together. They all in it. They all one. They all in it together. They're like one. They all together.
Mr. Lucas, if I may. So, what I would suggest in this conversation is, the board has governance oversight over all the school district's budget. Let me just first say that. The second thing is, as Karen mentioned, we needed to, because the previous board was allocated more money than they used, we wanted to get a sense of how much this board needed. This is a board discussion. This is not a staff discussion. So it is not an opinion of ours of how you, as the governing body of the school system, make decisions. We can answer questions, but this is a board discussion, and so this is going to be your discussion. Ms. Butler-Washington is right that CUBE is in partnership with NSBA. They have merged because of all of the NSBA happenings that happened 2 years ago. And they have moved, and when we researched that, I sent an email to the board members letting them know that anybody who is an NSBA member doesn't have to pay the registration of a non-member CUBE. They would have to pay as if they were a CUBE member when they attend any professional development by CUBE. But I just want to just chime in. This is actually a board discussion, so staff is going to answer only technical questions, and then we will stay out of your conversation.
So, what, and I'm going to, here, I was going to say historically, but you don't like it when I say historically. But, so, now, as Mr. Schwartz said, what the boards have traditionally done is budgeted money, whether it was used or not, to go to NSBA and to MABE. If there's any desire for the board to go to other conferences, then we need to have a discussion about that. Not now, but we need to have a discussion about that. If we could go to the last slide, please, that you mentioned. So there you go. Could you give an example of, I mean, there's that $1,000 number there. So could you use an example of how this applies now?
It's not very well defined how it's used now. And so what we've done is, if a board member wanted to access that, we would go back to see how much they used over and above the hotel and airfare to attend MABE and NSBA.
That's what I mean.
So then we would subtract that daily receipts that they wanted to put in for other expenses to attend those conferences out of that 1,000. But again, it's not something we've really done before, because previously we have not accessed that amount.
Correct. So let's just say, for the sake of an example, let's just take MABE. Okay. So if a board member goes to MABE, could you kind of run through how that $1,000 would be decremented?
So the hotel and conference fee would be paid by the board under professional development. So that would not be counted against the board member. If the board member wanted to go to meals outside of the conference and wanted to put receipts in for reimbursement for those expenses, then that would come out of that $1,000. That's my understanding of how it's done.
Okay. And so right now, if we go to MABE or NSBA, we get a per diem, which is for meals and incidentals. And whatever that number is, do you happen to know what it is? Is it $70 a day roughly?
I don't have it off the top of my head,
Okay.
no, but about that probably.
Okay, so let's say it's $70 a day, and you went to a conference for 4 days, then that would be $280. That would go against that $1,000.
Yes.
That's correct?
That's correct, because and that's something that's not clear to everybody, but the per diem is for outside of what the conference is providing. But if the conference is providing, then theoretically, you wouldn't need per diem. The accountant in me has to say that.
Fair enough. But then, if a board member were to take that stance, then there'd be no need to pay a per diem if the conference is providing for everything.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
We're in violent agreement. Okay. Ms.
Okay.
Barlow Washington.
Okay, so, again, I'm asking a question. If, since we have identified and said that CUBE and NSBA is the same thing, if I say that I don't want to go to MABE conference, I'd rather go to the CUBE's conference and use my funds for that, it shouldn't be a problem. Because I'm not using the funds to go to MABE. I'm just not going there. I'm just going to use the same funds to go to CUBE.
Okay, so what I'll say, and again, not so much a discussion now, technically yes, but it has to be a board discussion on what conference, regardless of what it is, qualifies as related to official duties. And that's the discussion that we have to have as a board, not now, but going forward. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, good. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll do Ms. Miller, and then we'll take a break, since Ms. Miller's here.
And there was the policy discussion, you're going to come back to that, the board policy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, finish up. Sorry, I'm sorry.
False alarm.
I was trying to help you, Ms. Miller. I'd already checked you off the agenda, Mr. Schwartz, I apologize. You really.
This won't take long. But in light of the discussion earlier about youth engagement advocates, this is a policy issue that the board has to address concerning youth engagement advocates. And we're bringing this forward as an information item. It will come back as a future agenda item for action, for a report and then action at 2 future meetings. We have a policy based on state law that allows the principal and assistant principal to make searches of students at school. The state law also allows school security guards to do those searches. They're not SROs, they're called school security guards. Most school systems do not have a school security guard position, and we never have either until we've hired these youth engagement advocates that have been defined through their job descriptions as, in part, school security guards. So we need to adopt a change in our policy to expressly state that it's not just the principal and assistant principal who can do searches, but also the youth engagement advocate who is acting as a school security guard. They would be allowed to do searches as well. And those searches are typically part of an investigation into an issue in a school setting. It's not something the SRO does. It's what the principal and assistant principal currently do. And after this policy is changed, youth engagement advocates would do as well. That's coming as an information today. I'm here to answer any questions about that. We'll be coming back as a report item and an action item at 2 future board meetings.
Okay, yeah, Ms. Smith.
Just curious around sort of training for these individuals. If presently the role is reserved for principals and assistant principals, will these youth engagement advocates have the same training in order to properly and lawfully conduct these searches?
Correct. Every one of our principals and assistant principals, except for the new ones who haven't received it yet, do receive training directly from me on how to do searches in school under state law. These youth engagement advocates are receiving that training this coming Friday, actually. I'll be giving training to them. So they'll be trained prior to their ability to do the searches in schools. They'll get the exact same training that our assistant principals and principals get.
That's my question. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Schwartz.
Mr. Schwartz.
Ms. Miller, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Awesome, thank you.
I always forget my name tag. I apologize. If you don't know my name by now, Ms. Thomas and I, we became very close last night. Very good. Became besties last night as we monitored the weather. Okay, so my name is Chris Mulholland Miller, and I am your Blueprint Implementation Coordinator. And I'm here to give you some updates about our plan and about the conditional approval process that we received from the AIB. I want to make some clarifications and answer questions because there is some misinformation that's being shared when it comes with the process, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and everybody understands exactly what's going on with this. So before we begin, I just want to give you a brief outline and just go back into history to see where we're at. March 2023, we submitted our plan on time. We received feedback from MSDE. And so I don't know if you remember earlier in the year, there was a little bit of pushing and pulling between who was giving the feedback. Was it the AIB? Was it MSDE? So MSDE was they were the ones that started with the feedback. So we made several rounds of feedback from MSDE on our plan. And if you recall, one of my big concerns with the blueprint is that we only had 200 pages. And we had I think it's 164 questions that we had to answer, and I was very concerned. Answer the question, I don't want any fluff, get in and get out, right? Well, that didn't prove to work out so well for us, and I take full ownership over that. But it's hard to know how much people are going to write in their responses. So when we had to make these revisions to our plan, it merely they needed more information from us. So we expanded on what we were trying to explain in both rounds of feedback with MSDE. So that brings us up to May after our second round of feedback with them, and we resubmitted our plan to MSDE, and on June 6th, we received a letter from MSDE that said that they were making recommendations to the AIB for our plan to move forward, that it had met all the criteria for the criteria for success that was given to us. On June 21st, I received an email from the AIB, and they were asking for feedback on our plan. And the feedback on our plan was in relation to questions 75 through 81. Questions 75 through 81 are in Pillar 3, College and Career Readiness, and it talks about interventions in English and reading. And it's really reading because we're only dealing up through 5th grade. So as we went back and we looked at how we responded for our English language arts portion, just questions 75 through 81, we did some reflection and recognized that we also needed to make some adjustments in our math interventions as well. Not because there was anything wrong, but the questions are the same in reading as they are in math. So if we're making the changes and the explanations in reading, we should do it in math as well. And so we sent those responses up to the AIB, and everything was fine. There was no mention about our MOU, which is what we're going to talk about, with the College of Southern Maryland and with the it's TCCS-MD, which stands for the Tri-County Council of Southern Maryland. They are our local workforce development board. If you recall, we are making this MOU between CSM and our local workforce development board, TCCS-MD, to help with career counseling for students in grades 6 through 12. And because it's a tri-county council, we share this council with Calvert and St. Mary's. So we have been working in conjunction with the superintendents and with the blueprint implementation coordinators, and with the equivalents of the chief of teaching and learning, and with our directors of CTE to make sure that our MOUs aligned with each other. We wanted to make sure there were some small differences because frankly, when it comes to the career advising, we already had some positions in place at the high school level. So in July, the AIB requested some clarifications in our MOU. And what they needed they needed information about budget. We didn't make any changes to the MOU. They just needed clarifications as to how much the Tri-County Council of Southern Maryland was getting quarterly, because we are getting the money from MSDE and giving money to them for these to help with these services. So the MOU had already been signed by all of the parties after the AIB had asked us for feedback. So Dr. Navarro had signed on behalf of Charles County. The president of CSM also signed on behalf of CSM. And we had the executive director of the TCCS-MD already signed this MOU. So we received this feedback from the AIB asking for clarifications in the budget. Nothing was changed. They just wanted us to be very specific, saying how much money was going. So the MOU itself did not change. But what we had to do was show that because the MOU had already been signed, that everybody was still in agreement with what it said. So I had to say, I sent an email, or Mr. Lowndes actually sent an email on our behalf to CSM and to the Tri-County Council, just stating, hey, we did not make a change to the MOU per se. Like, the meat of the MOU has not changed. The only thing that's changed is saying that we are paying the TCC, SMD, and CSM on a quarterly basis. So, as you can imagine, people go on vacation in July, okay? And I'm not gonna ask people to work on their vacation. I mean, people do, we all do. We answer emails, we are emailing and texting each other in the evenings, but part of the issue with us getting this conditional approval of our blueprint plan was because we could not get all of these justifications in on time. So now we've submitted everything, and now the attorney for the AIB is on vacation. However, I did receive a letter from not the member of the AIB, but the employee of the AIB, that it says, I can be on record stating that I have received everything I need to pass it forward, meaning our MOU and all of those. Yes, we understand that there were changes for final approval, and we will have a letter to you ASAP noting the condition is removed. So while we are conditionally approved for our blueprint plan, that condition is hopefully going to be lifted. I know that there were some news articles, and there was some real negativity that, of course, I took very personally. I know that's shocking about me. But it wasn't because we didn't have explanations of roles and responsibilities in our MOU, because that was a comment during the AIB meeting. That wasn't it at all. It had to do with us stating specifically when we were giving the money to these various people. And so I know that, Ms. Acton, we were emailing her. She helped us, with the language and the tables that we had to put in. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. The MOU didn't change. And as soon as the AIB has lifted that condition off and they approve that MOU, which we have here, that too is also going to be placed on our Blueprint webpage. Our plan the final plan, and with all of the feedback and the additions that we made, is currently listed on our website too for viewing. I know that's long. It was long and winded, but are there any questions about the conditional approval of our plan? And I went on vacation too. I mean, I just need everybody to know I took.
I like that wording. She said, "I can be on record." She didn't say she was on record.
She said, "I can be on." I mean, I can be on record.
Right.
I could be.
That sounds like Mr. Schwartz language.
Because if this comes back wrong, I'm going to say, but no. She gave her permission.
Got a note from Epstein's mom.
So the AIB gave power to their staff to review the MOUs being resubmitted and to approve and take that condition off of the approved blueprint. So it doesn't have to go back before a vote again, which is good. They did talk about that. And so what have we been working on this summer? I know a few of you have reached out to me and said, "Hey, is my name still on the list for the steering committees?" Yes, your name is still on the list for the steering committees. But what we found in years past, again, people take vacations in the summer, and it makes it difficult to coordinate everybody's schedules, and then we're playing catch up with everybody who's missed meetings. We are looking at creating working groups within our steering committees, because years ago when we started our steering committees, we didn't know as much as we do about the blueprint. There have been some changes that have been made, and the AIB has really guided us in a direction where they want us to laser focus on certain things. So we want to create working groups that are inclusive of our community members, our teachers, our staff, our parents, to look at how they can help us with these various working groups within the steering committees. So look for advertisements for that as we, grow our voice here in Charles County.
Awesome. Questions, comments?
She answered the question I was going to ask.
I mean,
That's how good she is. Ms. Creamer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Miller,
Yes.
for coming. And I know that this is your baby, so that's why it's totally understandable that you take any unwarranted negative attention personally. And I totally get that. And I just want to thank you again for all the work that you've done, and just remind everyone that, this is such a long and grueling process to even get to this point. And it sounds like it's just really a technicality. And just remind everyone too that, not long ago, Charles County was recognized as sort of a blueprint in itself for other counties. And so I know that with confidence I can say that we have one of the best plans that's put together, and a lot of that has to do with you and the work that you've done. So just appreciate that, and you know that now my son is going to middle school, and I'm going to ask you to come there and talk about the blueprint too.
I'm excited. I mean, I have had schools already book me for the fall, which is
great.
exciting. And again, I encourage anybody who has a question. I was on the phone with a parent for 45 minutes about our conditional approval of the blueprint. Instead of, writing negative things online, call me. I am very reachable. I will meet you here. I will meet you at dinner. I will meet you at the soccer field. I mean,
We ran into each other there.
Yes, I mean, I live and breathe this daily. And I believe in transparency. Nobody's trying to hide anything. And I encourage everybody, if you want to call me, email me, look at the website, please ask the questions. That's what I'm here for.
I can vouch for that too. She's very responsive. So yeah, I encourage the public too. If you have questions, please reach out because, or invite her to your school.
Yes.
To talk, at PTO meetings or whatever other opportunities there are. Tap into those resources that we have, and her willingness to be able to come out and meet with parents and staff and answer any questions. So just want to thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll just follow up. Appreciate you coming out every month, and I'll look to my board members. Is it safe to say that going forward, things won't be quite as on a frenetic pace as it was the past year?
I would say probably not. This was the biggest hurdle, right? Getting this first part done. March of 2024, so this school year, we will be updating our plan, and it will be inclusive of grades 6 through 12. So remember, our first plan was just for pre-K through 5, but the plan that we have to work on next to submit in March, and we will go through this process again, is for grades 6 through 12.
Okay, very good. So, we've had Ms. Miller do an actual presentation at every board meeting, and I'm just wondering now if maybe every other board meeting, or as we develop the handbook, her presentation could be part of a consent agenda that, is delivered to us electronically, and then if we have questions, we can bring her forth. But anyway, just looking at the board, would we like Ms. Miller to still show up every month or every other month, whatever the will of the board is?
I want to show up everybody. I'm just saying.
I feel like this is a slow breakup a little bit.
No, we don't have to, so we don't have to answer now, but just.
It's not you, it's us.
I hear that all the time.
I need to work on myself.
Okay. Just something to think about, that's all. Don't have to answer now. All right, Ms. Miller.
All right. Thanks, guys. Made my day.
All right.
Thanks, Miller.
Yeah. So I tell you what, let's take a break, and we'll come back at 4:15. Kyle. We'll be back at 4:15. Yeah. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to continue now with our August 8th meeting of the Charles County Board of Education. And so next is recurring resolutions. I don't know if anyone is going to... Come on, okay. I was looking at Miss Mackey. She's like, am I talking? No.
Nope.
Sure. No, okay.
So just every year, just for the board's information, we put forward all of the recurring resolutions that the board has from the previous year. This is an opportunity for you to see what the board recognizes every month and ask any questions. Also, this is an opportunity for the board if they want to change something or add something. It's an opportunity for you to do so and see if there's a consensus amongst all of you to do so.
Right, and we should be seeing this next month as an action item.
Yes.
So now it's a report item.
It's just a
It's
report item.
So, the things that we do every month, so this is a list of all of them, and so next month, this will come back to us to vote on. And we can if you want, but we don't have to. If there's something that a board member would like to comment on or like to add, then we can discuss that at a later time. But just more of an informational thing at this point. So, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, treasurer, good, all right. So next, we're gonna go on to unfinished business. Don't think we have any, but I'll look, unfinished business. Seeing none, so now we're gonna go on to new business, and I'll start us off with that. So, there's a couple things listed here. Again, this is one of the offshoots of our retreat that we had was the development of a board handbook. So I emailed everybody, and there was a lot of interest in a number of board members in wanting to do this. So I split things up into two groups, and those two groups met. And by the way, that was last week, I think. I don't know if you're out of town.
Oh, out of town.
That's what I thought, because you thought it was this week. But it's fine. It's only the first cut. So the two groups, Ms. Smith got a handbook, and was that from NSBA?
Yes.
Okay, that was one of the ones. Was that the one that we saw at NSBA?
Yeah,
or?
so that was one of the presentations we attended where
Okay.
it was a superintendent working with his board chair.
Yeah.
And they had drafted kind of a document to help orient
Okay.
the board, so.
Okay, so that was, and that document that they put together, it was just a combination of policies that they already had, and then some other things about how their board would operate, so all codified into one document. So the two groups got that, and I did speak to Ms. Morley, and she said that that you and Ms. Thomas had made some suggestions, and Ms. Creamer and I met, and we can circle back with Ms. Butler Washington. But we'll combine all those edits and then bring it back to the board in a future meeting for us to look at. So I don't know if there's any other questions or comments that folks had. Good? Okay. So, and the next thing I want to talk about is the board meeting times. So I think I discussed with a few of you individually the idea of moving up our work session times to start at 4:30 and meet from 4:30 to 5:30, and then to take a break before we started our 6 o'clock. So it would just add another hour of opportunity for more briefs and more presentations. But I just wanted to make sure that time worked for everybody. So again, that would be the fourth Monday to start at 4:30. Yep, Ms. Smith?
Well, it works, I'll make it work. I think it's definitely important, just given the additional members on the board, how interested we've been in all of the topics that have been presented by the superintendent and her team. I think we have a multitude of things to get done, not only this school year, but going into future school years, so I would support the additional hour for us to work together.
Okay, I appreciate that. And, everyone already had 6 o'clock marked off, so this just moves that up a little bit. So I think the thought was that we'd have that hour, again, just for one topic to have a nice deep dive into, and then we'd have a break before we started the 6 o'clock. All right, so good, we'll do that. And so the other thing, and it's not on here, but we both forgot to put this on, and that's our recognition. And I didn't know, after we talked about it, whether we're talking about student recognition or state winner recognitions. About how, so did you want to, I didn't know which one you were speaking to, but you can talk to either of those.
Yes, so one of the things that I proposed to the chair and the vice chair is, if you recall, when we have, 3 times a year, we have the state recognitions for athletic or academic competitions. And we have a lot of people, which is awesome, right? Because
The
we have
state winners
the
that-
state winners at different levels in different things, and we get very crowded in here. And so one of the questions was, so there were some options of thinking through that. Could we potentially move the state recognitions, which happen, and I'm looking at Shelley, I think 3 times in the year, to perhaps a work session time date to be able to recognize them? We were thinking at some point about moving this meeting somewhere else and making it live. We're still looking on getting better equipment to be able to go live for meetings and not have an interruption happen. Because we are just concerned. When we did the swearing in of all of you, we did have an interruption that happened for a brief period of time, and so we just don't want that uncertainty. So what we were thinking about is whether or not the board, those 3 times a year, would consider those state recognitions, maybe those work sessions to occur in another facility where we could have more space, or maybe not necessarily, where, we can plan ahead to be able to be as available with our technology as possible. And it's just one of those things where it's a little leery, and I keep looking at Shelley for us to be able, we have a little bit of nervousness about being able to do that effectively if we move it out of here. Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
Come on
So,
up.
while Ms. Mackey comes up, so one option is to have it at a work session, but that really doesn't change the physical space that we have here.
No, it doesn't, but it doesn't conflict with the recognitions of everybody else. So remember, every month we have school recognitions that come from every building. And so those guys are in the same time frame, and at the same time, and so families come to recognize the schools of the students and the staff that we recognize. And then we also have the state winners come, and they go on the same days, and sometimes we just have a lot of people here. So what we were thinking is, can we make it happen 3 times a year for the work sessions, not a full board meeting, if I may, because that's a longer period of time, maybe happen at satellites, like St. Charles or other schools where we feel like we could handle the technology for a couple hours versus an entire day of streaming.
And again, what time would that be?
So I would think if we're looking at doing that, it would be in the evening if we want to accommodate, a large group of parents.
Parents as well.
Yeah, so my lens on this all is the behind the scenes component, right? So when we take our portable equipment that we have for live streaming to different locations, the full use of that equipment is dependent on a lot of factors. One being the internet access within that particular school facility. One is also the ability to connect into that school facility sound system. And I personally have coordinated events in the last school year at Thomas Stone. They have a phenomenal sound system, so I know that there's plug-in ports for the equipment that we have. But maybe there's not the capability at maybe your La Plata High School auditorium or maybe at Lackey Auditorium. I'm just giving examples for that too. So I do have concerns, especially with the technology issues that we encountered in December for the swearing in. But also I would prefer that staff and the board would keep in mind too that our department has one trained true videographer, Mr. Graves. He went to school, he's been doing video production for years, so his support team is myself, Miss Taylor, Miss Wilson, Miss Cox, and Miss Murray, who are both web specialists. Their area is really based on the website. So we've all cross-trained, but Kyle really is our point of contact, so that's putting a lot of the technical setup to his knowledge. We'd have to work with members of Charmaine Thompson's team. But again, it's that internet component that is the priority for the live streaming element. And if we run into an issue, we could lose the feed momentarily. We could lose it for the entire event. And I would hate to say, hey, we're going to have this meeting here with this big recognition. We're going to stream it live, and then it not be able to be streamed live and us encounter issues.
So Shelley, are you suggesting then that the other idea is to bring the state recognitions at a different time during the regular board meeting dates, that we bring them 3 times a year?
That would be my recommendation. I still think because we have the capability of easily live streaming from this facility, from this room, you're still going to run into space capacity in here. You know, at the board's town hall in the fall of last year or the spring, it was packed. We had a full house in here. And I think that was maybe 60 or 70 seats that we had set up. If you recall June's board meeting, that recognition period, the boardroom was full, the hallway was just as full, out front was just as full, and that was for, I think, all of our spring athletics, but a lot of Mesa teams, DI, all of our state and global participants. So I'm just a little hesitant to say, yes, we can do something 100% successfully at a site outside of here that we would live stream.
Okay, all right. But that, again, the date that you or Dr. Navarro is proposing to do that, a day separate from our work session day, a totally separate day, or?
Yeah, so Dr. Jones' team suggested that maybe on a work session day, there is less of a crowd here. We don't tend to get a lot of public comment. There's just not a lot of people here. We would still be crowded. I think the June one is the biggest one, because I think there's a lot of competitions, Mesa, all of them, at the same time as the athletics. They all compound, and maybe pushing it that way. The question, I think, also for the board is, so it's maybe a transferring of time, because remember that, you know, we gave 20 minutes for state recognitions, but in June we spent twice or 3 times as much of that.
Yeah.
And so it takes away from the regular board day time.
I think you can build it into a work session if it started from, you know, maybe you have your recognitions from 4 to 5, and the internal setup is we have families come in and kind of stagger them, because I believe what we're doing now is we're asking them all to come in at 4:15 and wait out in the hallway and collect your group out there and kind of get in a line. I think if we were able to stagger it a little bit more, if there was more time built into a work session agenda for a recognition, we could ask a set of kids to be here at 4, maybe 4:30, then 4:45, just to space traffic in here out a little bit too.
I mean, even going later than that, because I mean, I think the later you go, the better opportunity for parents to be here. And that's.
Yep.
Comments? Sorry, Mr. Hancock. Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley. I kind of like the idea of having it at a work session and still having it here. There, to me, especially when you're a student, there is something special about receiving an award here as opposed to receiving it at a school. It's like, I can remember when I was a student and someone had to go to the board to get an award. It's like a really big deal, you know. So I do think, you know, like the June meeting, it was very crowded, but we had a lot going on. And I like your idea of spacing it out at a work session where there's less people here, and will allow us more time to kind of stretch it out a little bit. So that's my opinion on it. Thank you.
Ms. Smith.
I was just going to say I like Mr. Hancock's point in terms of the magnitude of being here and spacing it out. So, yeah, I support that point.
Okay. All right, so we can, superintendent can work the details and come back. We've got a couple months before we have to have what I'm sure will be many state recognitions. But I concur. I think doing it later in the evening on a work session night is probably better. It affords more opportunity for the parents to be here. Yeah. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Chairman Lucas. And I'm not sure if this is the proper sort of juncture to introduce this, but during those presentations, is it possible that we can post something on our website, just a quick blurb about the projects that the students participated in, especially around like MESA and DI and all of the other awards, just a bit about the projects that those kids were engaged in that sort of led them to getting awards, like state level, national level, wherever they're receiving awards from.
Yeah, that's really easy for us to do, because typically on board docs, we load a document that has all of the students coming in and what they're coming in to be recognized for. So if our team had that information and could expand on it, that's very easy for us to do.
Yeah, I think we have that. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thanks. The other thing I had for future agenda items, and I think this is probably a gimme, and Superintendent mentioned this earlier to us, planning another board retreat. Is everyone good with that? All right, so we'll just kind of make arrangements, get a few dates, maybe towards the end of the year, and see what works for everybody. So actually, the time, so it was like late afternoon, still a good time for everybody. I kind of think that 5-6 hour session was about right. So I'm looking down. Ms. Warren, is that like something that starts about 2 or 3 in the afternoon? Is that, you know, with a few months' notice, does that work for you? Yes. Okay. All right, good. Okay. Any other future agenda items? Ms. Creamer.
And I'm going to ask you, Mr. Lucas, too, if this is the correct place on the agenda. But something else we talked about in the retreat was just sort of redesigning our agenda to align with the superintendent's strategic plan. So I don't know if that's something that we need to discuss at a future meeting. That's an administrative task, but just wanted to bring that up.
When you say, so can you give me an example? I remember the conversation, but I'm trying to remember the.
So, like, for example, when we talked about, you know, school culture and climate today, well, with the state of the schools presentation and school culture and climates and that, so that's one of her pillars.
Right.
In the strategic plan, so that each agenda item would kind of be bulleted or it would be highlighted somewhere, so that the agenda would be organized.
So the
Does that
agenda,
make sense?
So the agenda clearly feeds back to the strategic
Correct.
plan, and
Yes.
public can see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for the benefit of the
Tracking, right?
public, yeah. And for us.
Dr. Navarro.
Yeah, and Mr. Lucas, what I did, because I took that as a takeaway also from the retreat, what I have done as I put in items for what I would like to request the board to get updates on, I'll put in parentheses strategic plan, so that you see where it's aligned to pillar 1, 2, or 3 of the strategic plan. And so I think my draft of the world, as Maria would love every board meeting to be about, of all the things that need to be approved, I did highlight, to Ms. Kramer's point, which pillar and which ones are part of the strategic plan in that draft, that I still have to share with the full board, but yes, it's important for me also to have that noted.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else from anyone?
I don't know if this is where I mentioned this or not, but is it possible to request the data for the FEV tutoring? It's an online program for tutoring for students, whether that's reading, math, science, social studies. Is it possible to get the data for that and see how it's actually beneficial to us? Because I personally have used it. It wasn't beneficial for me.
So that was still one of the things from.
Yeah, it was mentioned.
From the previous board that the impact of tutoring.
It was mentioned in a previous meeting before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can actually get the FEV tutoring. We actually had a discussion today. We've got about 350 students that are using it this summer.
Yeah.
And so we can show, you know, the impact on tutoring. And I think what you're going to see is that it has a much greater impact on the elementary, who use it very specifically throughout the day in a targeted way to enhance their reading and their math, than the high school students who are not using it for help after school.
Oh, I was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just typically, I mean, in general.
In general, yeah, okay.
I think.
But we
as a
can
s-
bring that data here, yes.
Yeah, I think.
Did we
Ms.
not present on FEB tutoring?
It
on
was part of the
in
tutoring,
general?
it was part of the tutoring discussion. So we did show
In
the
June?
breakdown, yes, in June. We showed the breakdown between the virtual and the in-school.
Amber Alert?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, Treasurer, I wonder, did, you were here for the presentation?
I think
in
so.
June. Yes, so that was all of the tutoring that we did. My suggestion would be, why don't we do a weekly update on the usage of FEB? We have data for what it looked like for last year, because we have that data, we have the impact just for it. And then we can update the entire board, also take that opportunity and update the summer, so you can get some of these summer numbers. And if the board wants to be able to see, we can put it through a weekly transmittal. So you'll
Alright.
get the weekly transmittal, you can see what it looks like. And then you can just get a sense of impact.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know because I personally used it, and for me, it just wasn't beneficial. So I just wanted to see what that looked like.
I'd love to hear why,
That's fair.
what didn't work for you later. We don't,
So going into it,
we don't hear it now.
We can,
I mean,
yeah,
later.
we
I
can
will
have an
keep in
offline
contact.
discussion.
Discussion for another day.
so going into it, when I was told that I was going to be doing online tutoring, I was thinking that it was going to be like me and another person, like kind of like a Zoom. But it was just like, the communicating over, like just typing and like texting back and forth, which, I mean, it was okay. And then also doing the work on the whiteboard, trying to draw on a whiteboard with a keypad is very, very hard. But then also they weren't focusing on what I was learning in school, because math is one of the things that I struggle with. And so I'm like, okay, well, can we focus on this? This is what I'm currently learning in class. This is, what I need help on. And they would be like, yeah, okay, cool. And then proceed to do whatever they wanted to do, or like whatever they had on the agenda at first that wasn't what I was learning. So I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. What I used to do or whatever, because half of the things that they were going over, I had already knew how to do. So I would sit there for the hour of the tutoring that I had, and I would sit there and act like I didn't know what I was doing so they could do all the problems the whole hour. Be completely honest. Because I was like, I already know how to do this, and this isn't what I'm learning. So I ended up falling more behind when taking tutoring when it was supposed to be helping me.
Well, so as Mr. Lount said, if you can talk to him offline in detail about maybe things, a way to improve it. Doesn't surprise me that it helped the elementary kids more, because that's it's kind of more of a general subject area discussion rather than specific areas.
Yeah.
And that you would encounter at the high school level. But no, that's good feedback, and superintendent will get that information to you.
And then also, even like when my mom would call and say, well, my daughter was asking to work on this, they still wouldn't change the issue. So I was still like, hey, let's say their agenda for that day was fractions. I say, well, hey, can we work on decimals because this is what I'm learning in class? They would say, okay, let me change the agenda for today and still proceed to work on fractions.
Yeah.
So that was just my issue.
Okay. Great feedback, thank you.
Anything else for yes, Ms. Smith?
We may already have this down, but just to make sure that we have it noted, for the naming and renaming policy, ensuring that future board meeting will be able to discuss it, especially as we begin to think about, what is it? No, it's elementary school, 23.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So the plan is by the end of the month, again, to have out to the entire board agenda items for the rest of the year. Again, always tentative, because you don't know what you don't know.
of course.
And then also dates for anything outside of our regular meetings. So we're going to have meetings for redistricting. We've got dates for town halls, one for the board retreat, everything in there. So expect to see that at the end of the month. But what you just mentioned is currently scheduled for the work session for this month.
Right.
Yep.
Good. Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Kramer?
Apologies, I have something else.
That's all right.
So I wanted to ask for perhaps, and I'm not sure exactly, someone looks at Dr. Navarro for what you think may be best in this situation, to address special education procedures for families to navigate. So I get a lot of questions around special education services. Like families don't understand who they need to go to, or they're having a problem with a specific, I guess, process, the IEP process or the 504 process. Maybe they're new to the county, they don't know. Sometimes parents will even ask, well, does every school have, you know, facilitators? Or I don't even know the proper terminology myself, because I think it's something that unless you had personal experience with it, you may not necessarily be privy to all of the policies. And typically what I do is just refer people to Dr. McKinnon, which I know that may not necessarily be the best, you know, thing to do. I mean, I know that she's the director of special education, so that's where my thoughts go to. I also refer them to CCAC, but just thought maybe there, I know I attended the Special Education Expo back in the spring, and there was a lot of great information shared there. But, you know, for whatever reason, maybe it's not reaching families as they need to. So I don't know if it's something we could do, maybe a brief presentation on from Dr. McKinnon and her, or someone from her team, or just if there's any other type of outreach that we do to notify families, or just educate families about, you know, the process, or if they have a question about their IEP or they want to make a change to their IEP, what's the proper process to go through? Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. This is one of those things that we need to do every single year, because we are constantly educating families on what the process looks like, and it's not always a simple, once you get into the process, it's very individual to your child and your child's needs. I think a lot of families are really asking, who can help me and who can be an advocate for me, because I'm not sure I'm doing it right, or I'm not sure I agree with the school.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, my experience with families have always been, the family, it's so daunting, and it's how do we help? It's up to the board if they want to have a presentation for how Dr. McKinnon tackles those issues at the school, at the district level. How do you find your advocate? Who's an advocate? What that looks like? I will tell you that is constantly an issue. It's sort of like door knocking on pre-K, like, come on and register for pre-K. And it's not until the lady sees the neighbors doing it, it's like, what? School started? I got to register? There's an option? So I'm willing to do what the board would like to do, but I can tell you, we can talk about what we do, and we can always have a conversation, and CCAC is a good group that gives feedback back to Dr. McKinnon on how to navigate more knowledge, community empowerment of families in this relationship. So I'm willing to understand what the board would like to see. But I understand what you're saying.
Right. And I agree with what Ms. Creamer asked for would be beneficial. I think what would also be beneficial for the board as a whole and the public is just an overview of, and right, this is a huge topic, special education programs in general, right? When we talk about IEPs and 504s and the amount of students that we have under that umbrella, which I think most people, if I ask them to guess a number, they'd guess much, much lower than what we actually have. So I think a presentation encompassing all of that, which is probably on par with what we heard this morning from Dr. Jones,
that would be really helpful, I feel like. And just so that we also know as board members, when we get questions like that, what should we be telling families, because I want to make sure I'm giving them the correct information, because a lot of times by the time I see them, or they're reaching out to me, or I happen to see someone out in public or whatever, they're already frustrated. So I don't want to give them the wrong information and make them more frustrated, because I understand it's sometimes a difficult and daunting process to go through. And so I just want to make sure I'm giving them accurate information.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Anything else? Good. All right. So now we get to go on break again. Yay. So
look at that.
Yeah. So we'll come back in an hour, and we'll start off with public forum, and then just take care of a few things. And that'll be it. So Kyle, we'll be back in an hour. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to resume our agenda, and we're going to move into board correspondence. So everyone's had a nice summer break. Talk about your vacations or anything else you'd care to discuss. So I know. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
I was thinking for a second, but so one, definitely excited to begin preparing for the upcoming school year. Excited to get out to a few schools on the first day of school, and be able to sort of, welcome students, welcome families in. Also excited for my three. I will have a new sort of matriculating high schooler. Pray for me. Still have two middle schoolers, but very excited for the first day of school. In terms of events that were attended over the past month, definitely took advantage of reflecting on the work we've done since we were sworn in January. I think many of us, and sometimes the public forgets, that we've only been aboard for just a few months, and we've accomplished what I feel is so much. There's still a great deal of work to do, but very proud of what we've accomplished to date. So definitely took July to kind of reflect on where we've been from January to June. In terms of some of the things that I've attended over the past few days, want to give kudos to the superintendent and her team for Monday's training. I believe it's a week-long leadership institute. 3 days, which is still a great deal of time, of working closely with principals and administrators. Several of us had an opportunity to hear the State of Schools address delivered to principals and assistant principals, in addition to hearing it here again with Dr. Jones and Mr. Lowndes. But definitely was kudos to you again, Dr. Navarro, and to your team for the experience you all put together for our building leaders and for welcoming the new assistant principals and principals that we have coming into our school system. I think that also speaks to the high degree of recruitment efforts that took place, not only over the summer, but towards the end of the last school year, just ensuring that we had the proper principals and assistant principals in place for the first day of school. So kudos to you on that training. Also had the wonderful opportunity that very evening before the storms rolled in of welcoming and opening, being a part of the opening of the first charter school in Charles County. Very excited for I believe it's 175 families, students and families, that will have access to that campus, access to those instructors. I know that there's a pretty lengthy waiting list also, but very excited for the opportunities that those students are about to embark upon, and just kudos to the PASOTA staff for the opening that they led before the storm sort of rolled in. And I believe those are my my updates.
All right. Thanks so much, Ms. Smith. Ms. Creamer.
Yes, thank you so much. So it's been a great summer, and I hope that everyone has enjoyed the last couple of months. Whether it was vacation, staycation, spending time with your kids and families, just not having to wake up early in the morning, some of you, whatever it was. But I'm probably an anomaly here, but I look forward to this time of year. I like the start of school. Fall is also my favorite season, so I love the return to routine, and of course, I love the weather. Like I said, fall is my favorite. And I just think it's an opportunity to look forward and to have a new beginning. And so I think that's one of the things I love the most. So definitely looking forward to the school year beginning. And I second Ms. Smith's sentiments. Definitely took some time to reflect on the accomplishments of this board. And, just looking at everything that we accomplished in just such a short time, and all of the things that we have on the agenda, for the rest of this year, calendar year, and the school year. So I'm actually trying to put something together to kind of summarize, just for the public, the things that we've done since January. And so be on the lookout for that. But I also want to give kudos to Mr. Lowndes and his team on the camp offerings this summer. My son was able to take part in several of those. So we did STEM camp at St. Charles, which he really enjoyed. That was the first time. He had never taken that before. They did the end of camp on Friday. They did an egg drop project where they invited parents to come and see, and they worked in like small teams. And they had I don't know, someone brought a bucket truck, and they literally like went up top and dropped everybody's egg down, and we all got to see, did the egg crack, or did it survive? And so they all cheered for the ones that survived and all of that. So it was great. That was awesome. He did Boost rather at Davis. He loved it. His math teacher was Miss Savage, who I do not know, but I've been trying to find, because he was a kid who did not enjoy math this past year, and came home from like the first day of Boost and said he had a good time in math, and math was his favorite part of the day. So really appreciated that opportunity. And he's also doing enrichment this week. So just really appreciate those opportunities for summer learning this summer. I did also attend Leadership Institute and Pasota's ribbon cutting yesterday, which was amazing. So excited for that opportunity for Charles County students, and looking forward to seeing it grow and thrive. I think that's it. I'm looking forward to the first day of school. I'll be at a few schools, so I hope to see some of you there, parents and staff alike. And just want to remind parents, too, to make sure that you check the website for the orientations and meet and greets, and back to school nights for your kids' schools, because it's really important to go and start to build those relationships with the teachers and the staff and support staff, building service workers. You get to meet kind of everybody at least one of those. So just take advantage of that. All that information is posted on the website. So please take advantage of that. And that's about it. That's it for me.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas.
I want to say, I also attended the summer commencement ceremony on Friday.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was very interesting. I was glad to see the students come and finish their education, got their diplomas, and that was exciting. I also attended the ceremony and also the Team Leading Institute. And I'm also excited to see the school ready to open, see the new students coming in. I'm also signed up for 2 schools. That'd be interesting. For one of them that I'm ready to go back and see with Smallwood. I'm ready to go and see how new that's going to be turning out. And I'm just glad that we're ready to start back and get back into the groove. And that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Thomas. Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Chairman. It has been a quick summer, even though the kids got out early. It has gone by quick. But one thing that shortly after the summer started, had the pleasure of joining most everyone here, I think, at the Be the Difference Award. That was really fantastic, and I say everybody is a winner at that, because that's where you honor community members that take time out of their schedule to volunteer with our students, and that's, you can't ask for no more than that. I would like to congratulate Mr. Keith Elkins, who's a wonderful guy who's been around for years and really dedicates any spare time he has to the students of CCPS, and we can't thank him enough. The summer school graduation was really cool. It's really impressive to see students that didn't quite make it, if you want to say it like that, toward the end of the year, and they didn't give up. They went and earned a diploma that carries the same amount of weight as the diplomas that were passed out at the end of May. So all of those students should be very proud. That being said, I am not like Nicole, other than I do like the fall, but I always get sad when the kids go back to school, because my kids are always a big help with me on the farm. So for selfish reasons, I don't like to see them go back, but I do I do hope everyone has a great school year. It might be breaking some child labor laws there, but they get a free place to live. I do wish everyone a very safe and productive school year this year, and I do look forward to getting back into visiting the classrooms on the first day of school, and that is exciting. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hancock. Hi. Yes, Ms. Perkins.
To ditto off of what Ms. Creamer said, I have been enjoying my stay home vacation, just sleeping in, because I'm not looking forward to getting up at 6 a.m. for school, but hey. But I did also get to attend the summer school graduation, which was really nice. Oh, and also because two of my favorite people ended up graduating, so that was really nice for me to kind of see them walk across the stage. I was like, oh my God, like that's so great. But I'm very excited for the school year. It's a bittersweet thing because I don't want to go, but I'm excited for the opportunities, and even just this one, attending like MABE conferences and doing the different things and interacting with different schools at different levels, whether that's middle or high school, and just interacting with the people. So I'm very excited for this school year.
Awesome. Glad to have you here too. Ms. Bella Washington?
Yes. Great summer. I have just been lax. I didn't do nothing with you all. I just been enjoying my summer. Just like I said I was going to do. But I did. I kicked off the end of the summer with a backpack for the community. So we had over 400 book bags, so we gave to the community. We gave over 200 of them out. So I gave the others to my chapter, so they're going to be able to continue to give them out to the community. It was a great feeling to get in the community, get to know the parents, even giving the students some inspiring words to make sure that they stay healthy in school, to make sure they behave, they think before they do, and to make sure that they are inspired to learn this year. And the reason I want to stand out there to make sure we tell them that is because the board, I want to tell them that the board is really going to make sure that we wanted to make sure we tell them that we trusted them this year and we did some changes for them this year, which was in the student code for them, which is the dress code. So I told them they owe us this year, which is the behavior. So we did something for them and we asking them to do something for us. And so they all laughed, but they said to tell us, thank you, thank you, thank you. They all said thank you. So, but just to hear them say over the summer they enjoyed and coming to school and just talk to some of them and having just the one-on-ones with them, they want to do better. And they do want to learn. And just to having that small talk to just to tell them, just inspire them to say that, we want the best for them. And just to hearing them to say that we want the best for them, and just to hearing and let them know that. So I think that was a positive thing, just to be out in the community and letting them hear that. And the next thing is I attended Pasoto with the rest of the board, and it was exciting to see the first charter school I ever have attended. It was well attended, very nice. I got in the car right before the rain went down, so I was so happy. It was great. So, but everybody was there, so it was just great fun in there. I will be attending one school, which would be Jennifer Elementary. And the reason I picked Jennifer Elementary is because I had promised that principal I was going to come all last year. So I'm going to stay the whole first half of the day at that school. So I promised, I said I'm just going to go to one school. And that's the reason I picked that school, because I had said I was going to come to that school, and I did not come. I went to several other schools, and I didn't come. And I'm on record saying that I will be to that school on the first day of school. And that's mine.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Butler Washington. Anybody else? Good. Ms. Warren? Yeah, please.
Just want to welcome, it's an early welcome back to the students, back to school this year. I'm looking forward to this school year, working with all of you and the students and the school body. What else? I went to Pasota's ribbon cutting ceremony yesterday, and it was very inspiring. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from me was when the founder stated that she was a student here in Charles County, and in 6th grade, she had an assignment to write a business plan. And her business plan was to create her own school. And here she is years later with her own school. So it's like a full circle. That really inspired me, and I hope that it will inspire the students that attend her school, and not only her school, but all of the students that will attend school, this year, that dreams do come true. So dream big, think, learn, be inspired.
All right, thank you. I just have a couple things. So, as has been mentioned, summer school graduation, it's always one of my favorites to go through, to go to, because as Mr. Hancock says, those kids, for whatever circumstance they had, they needed a little extra time, but they put in the effort and they got it done. And there's a lot to be said for that. The Be the Difference Award, if anybody out there wants to volunteer in any way, if you have some idea, I'm going to ask you, get in touch with Sylvia Royster, make her phone ring all day, and she will pick up and listen to what you have to say. She's our Director of Community Engagement and Equity, and just to like to thank her and her team for that program. It's going to be even bigger next year, and I'd like to thank everyone who volunteers in our school, an individual or a business. Just thank you so much for doing that. It means a lot. I'm on the committee for MABE, the Equity Committee. They're charged with developing an equity policy, and we've had a meeting. We're going to have another meeting later this month, so I'll keep the board abreast of that. And actually, I'm sure you'll hear about it presented at the meeting in October, at the annual meeting. And like other board members, I was at the Ron Cunningham Leadership Institute. Mr. Cunningham was a tremendous educator, and that event is always, the sense of professionalism amongst everyone there is just really, really intense, and which is good, right? I mean, these are the leaders in our school, and thanks to the superintendent and her staff for making that happen. And PASOTA, in 2010, boy, 13 years ago, the Maryland Independent asked questions of a bunch of people running for Board of Education, what they wanted to accomplish, and one young upstart board member to be said that he wanted to open the first charter school. Now, I won't take any credit for opening that other than voting on it up here, but 13 years later, here we are. And, to the whole team that made that happen, good on you, and to look forward to great things from that. And finally, if you didn't hear, go to the website. The application process for the District 1 vacancy is outlined there, and you can go online and get that information. Just contact Ms. Stubblefield if you have any questions. All right. We're good? All right, so we get another quick break before we have our public comment. And I saw one person signed up out there at least, so we'll come back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Go get you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to start back up with public comment. Mr. Schwartz, if you would, please.
I will read the rules for public forums. Speakers should identify themselves. Statements should be brief, to the point, and limited to 3 minutes or less. Board members should not be expected to respond during the forum to statements made by speakers. When appropriate, CCPS staff may address the speaker's concerns directly. Statements should relate to Charles County Board of Education agenda items or any education-related topic with the following limitations: personnel matters, pending or potential appeals, or the comments regarding the actions or statements of individual staff or the private lives of any individual are not appropriate topics. Proper language and decorum are required at all times. We have one speaker signed up this evening, Dr. Vernell D. Green.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening? Yes.
Yes,
okay.
that's
good
good.
evening, Chairman Lucas,
Yeah.
Superintendent Navarro, and members of the board. I come to you in 3 roles today. The first role is as a former 5-year member of the Maryland State Board of Education. Several weeks ago, the Southern Maryland News reported that the Maryland Comprehensive Health Framework had been approved by the Maryland State Board. That is a fallacy. Not only did the State Board not been given a vote on approving the framework, we were not permitted to even discuss its contents. In fact, the majority of my fellow members felt many portions were inappropriate. Discussing homosexuality and transgenderism with 5-year-old children, telling them that their sex had been assigned at birth rather than a biological fact of nature, discussing the intimate details of oral sex and masturbation with 12-year-olds. I reminded the state superintendent that LEAs should retain the authority to make curricular decisions and not be mandated from above, including whether to adopt the health standards without modification. My second role is as a 20-year resident of Charles County. You have been elected to serve us and to make policy decisions for our children. Note, our children. They don't belong to the government. They don't belong to the board, nor school teachers and administrators. They are ours, and we expect you, board members, to do your due diligence before making curricular decisions. Be kept abreast of what is being taught in your schools and by whom. For example, what's in the libraries? Are the books Queer Boy or Perfectly Normal available for curious youngsters without parental permission, oversight, or guidance? Full transparency of your policies and resolutions would be a great starting point. For example, recurring resolution documents were available online to the public, except for the inclusion and diversity resolution. Perhaps that would explain your issues or your stance on the issues that I just mentioned. My third role is as the grandmother of 6 beautiful school-aged children. I want them to be educated and not indoctrinated with values and beliefs that contradict what they have learned at home and at church. Afford their beliefs, values, and faith traditions the same dignity and respect that they are being told to give to others. Don't take away their innocence or the innocence of their playmates. In closing, I share with you the words of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ that I have endeavored to follow over my 50 years as a career educator. Therefore, from Matthew, therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in my kingdom of heaven, and whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Matthew 18, verses 4 through 6. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Green. And if you'd like to leave a copy of anything, you can do so or email it. I'll make sure that everyone has an electronic copy of what you just read.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move in now to a couple of quick action items. First, we have some minutes. Chair will seek a motion to approve the minutes of the June 26th board work session.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hancock, seconded by Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Next, we have the minutes from our board meeting of the 13th of June. Chair will look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made by Mr. Hancock and seconded by Ms. Krieger. Any discussion on those?
No.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous, thank you. Finally, our board retreat from the 20th of June. Minutes, the board or the chair looks for a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
Made by Ms. Butler-Washington, seconded by Ms. Smith. Any discussion on that?
Ms. Thomas.
Ms. Thomas, I'm sorry. Seconded by Ms. Thomas. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Sorry. No, I just, it says June 20th, 2 p.m. I wasn't there.
You were not there.
Yeah.
Not there. Okay.
It states that in the,
minutes.
in the minutes. But I wasn't there.
Hold on.
She's listed as present.
Correction needed.
Let's see. Okay, so, thank you very much. So, need a motion to amend those minutes then.
Motion to amend.
Second.
All right, so we need to amend the minutes from the June 20th board retreat to indicate that Ms. Warren was not present. Sorry, I thought you were writing that. All right, so
Excuse me.
there's a motion to amend the June 20th minutes to indicate Ms. Warren was not present. It was made by Ms. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Hancock. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. There we go, thank you. That is unanimous. Okay, so now we will go back to approving those minutes, which has already had a motion and a second. So can we now approve the minutes of the June 20th work session? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, next we have personnel. Just looking for a motion to approve personnel. Okay, made by Ms. Kramer, seconded by Ms. Smith. Okay, no discussion on personnel. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, student board member does not vote on personnel. So that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Oh, that's right, sorry. So now, having officially approved our personnel action, Ms. Major, would you like to come up? With some people who are officially in new positions?
All right, good evening to our Chairperson Lucas and all who serve on our Board of Education. I am delighted to have joining with me two of our newest hires. Ladies first, I will start with Ms. Jamie Whitfield Coffin. We are very pleased to welcome Ms. Whitfield Coffin as our new Executive Director of Schools with our Office of School Administration and Leadership. Ms. Coffin most recently served as principal for Tulip Grove Elementary School in Bowie, Maryland. She actually worked for Prince George's County Public Schools for 24 years. So she served for a long time prior to being a principal, and she was in that role for 10 years. She was an assistant principal for 6. She also served as an instructional coach, and then she was a classroom teacher for 6 years. So she started her career with PG as a classroom teacher. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education, as well as a Master of Arts in Administration and Supervision, both obtained at Bowie State University, one of our HBCUs. She has her Admin 1 and 2 certification, and she is presently a doctoral candidate at Drexel University, pursuing her educational administration doctorate. So she will lose sleep at some point, for all those who can relate. So we are really excited to have you join us in your new role. Congratulations. And next, we have none other than Mr. Richard Paolet.
Paolet, yeah.
Paolet. I want to make sure I pronounce that beautiful last name right. And Mr. Paolet has been with us for over 20 years, 22, if I've counted them correctly. And we are welcoming him as the new Director of Aquatics, Athletics, and Student Activities. Mr. Paolet was the athletic director. Some of you might know him and remember him at La Plata High School, and he was in that role for 8 years. Prior to that, he was an engineering teacher at North Point High School for 10 years, and he was also a science teacher at Lackey High School for 4 years. So he has been with us in a couple different capacities, contributing to the life of our students, and we are just so excited that he's decided to step up and fill some big shoes, succeeding Mr. Lee. So congratulations on your new role as well. We are happy that you are joining us in that capacity. Congratulations. So I will just quickly give them a minute if you want to say anything to the board or the public. I'll start with Ms. Coffin.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, Charles County Board of Education, Superintendent Navarro, and Charles County community. I would like to express my sincere thanks for being given the opportunity to serve as an Executive Director of Schools. In just 2 days, I've learned quite a bit about Charles County and the path forward. I do look forward to the opportunity to be a part of the senior leadership team and making sure that all students have an opportunity to think, to be inspired, and to grow. Most importantly, I look forward to working collectively with school administrators and central office staff to make sure that every child in Charles County has an opportunity to have a future filled with endless possibilities. So thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't really aware that I was going to be speaking here, but being an athletic director for the last 8 years, it makes it kind of easy to be able to speak in a public forum. First and foremost, thank you. Gratitude is always how I kind of live my life, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to lead. And I've already stepped in, and I've stepped into some big shoes, and I'm looking to continue and make some changes to go along with all the things that my predecessors have put forth. So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to make the most of it. You can bank on that.
Thank you. And I will just add that both of these individuals will work under the leadership of Dr. Marvin Jones in the Office of School Administration and Leadership. So again, welcome.
And do we have family members?
Yes.
If they can wave. Yes, there you go. I just want to recognize families. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth. All right, we're gonna table the last action item for the next meeting. So the only thing left is motion to adjourn.
Beat me to it. Second.
Made by Ms. Thomas and seconded by Mr. Hancock. All those in favor? All right, enjoy your evening.
No, see you guys.
See you all.